I'm Pat Nolan, your announcer for this program. Tonight, the 15th Metropolitan Council holds its second business meeting of the new term. We'll once again have an address from Mayor Cooper. It is a little bit rare for a council member or for a mayor to come in and address the council, particularly 2 meetings in a row, but he wants to build a better and closer relationship with this council, and also because he will take the opportunity tonight to announce who his new legal director will be. That's a nomination that has to come to this council, as the finance director will later tonight for confirmation. It's expected that he will name Bob Cooper, who is the former state attorney general for the state of Tennessee, to be the legal director. We also have a council staff director who's coming back from being the legal director. His name is John Cooper, as is the mayor's. By the way, none of those people are related. The John Coopers don't spell their name the same way. So that they're not the same person. It might be confusing for some folks, but they're all named Cooper, and they'll all be having high-level jobs within the city government. Early on in the agenda, the council will vote on the confirmation of Kevin Crumbo, who is Mayor John Cooper's choice to be the Metro Finance Director. The post of Finance Director is perhaps the most important city department head position. It's the only one the mayor can hire or fire at his or her discretion. Crumby is a highly regarded professional with a background in the private industry of turning around businesses. That's a skill that might seem appealing to the new mayor given the city's current budget woes. Previously, Crumbo did some healthcare-related consulting work on a pro bono basis under the administration of Mayor Megan Barry. Because he worked through the city's legal department in that regard, it's unknown exactly what he recommended at that time, although during that period, Mayor Barry announced that he wanted to convert the city's general hospital into an outpatient clinic. After a public backlash, she dropped that idea. Mr. Crumbo was asked about that during the meeting that was held in the committee before it comes to the council tonight. First, he was a little reluctant to talk about it, thinking it might violate some kind of patient confidence, some kind of patient confidentiality. He did later say he would be willing to take a fresh look at the general situation once he comes into office to see what happens going forward with that particular thing. Look for that perhaps to be part of the debate tonight, although it got out of committee by an 8-0 vote with no dissension. There's never been much controversy about appointing or opposition to appointing anyone who's been appointed by the mayor to be finance director, and that's probably what's going to happen tonight. By the way, Mayor Cooper tonight is also expected to give a little bit more information to the council about the water sewer rate increase that seems to be pending in Nashville, because the state government says the Metro has gotten into arrears on its water sewer program and needs to take pretty much immediate action to raise those rates to make sure that Metro stays back in the black. Council tonight will also select its Speaker pro tempore. It's a member who takes Vice Mayor Shulman's place if he takes a break, is sick, or can no longer serve in those duties. Now, that post became critical last term when Vice Mayor David Briley became mayor when Mayor Megan Briley resigned from office. The council pro tempore at that time was Council Member Sherry Weiner, who served as Vice Mayor until she was replaced by Jim Shulman in a special election. The pro tempore term is for 1 year, so the choice will come up again next year. Those seeking to be chosen pro tempore tonight by a vote of this council are Vanaka Verscher and Jeff Syracuse. This is the only one of the many positions the council will approve tonight among its members that's contested. It'll be interesting to see what that vote turns out to be. We are told at this point that it appears Jeff Syracuse has the edge in the votes tonight, but we'll see what happens when the council takes its vote. The council must also choose among its members to serve on the city's audit commission. We do understand that one of the new council members, the at-large member Zulfat Sahara, will be taking one of those positions on the audit committee. She is a CPA. There's a second position open tonight, but it's not clear from anyone I talked to exactly who might be serving in that. It may well be the council will leave that vacant for now and come back and fill it later. They're also going to fill a position as Planning Commission Committee Chairman and also a member of the Metro Planning Commission. Kathleen Murphy is seeking that. And on the Traffic and Parking Commission, also the head of the Traffic and Parking Committee here in the council will be the person to be elected to that is probably going to be Freddie O'Connell. Now, there's 8 special committees that the Vice Mayor is going to appoint. They include both council members and members of the public. All those council members are going to be announced tonight by the Vice Mayor, who will outline what those 8 special committees are going to be. They include things like why people don't vote in Nashville, looking into that situation, why the Codes Department doesn't seem to have its rules enforced the way some people would like to see that happen, and also for teachers, why they have to spend out of their own pockets to buy things for classrooms, why that isn't handled basically by the regular budget. It's those kind of things these special committees will look at. Vice Mayor's not ready to announce who his people are who are going to be taking care of that in terms of what's going to happen with the civilian members on that, but he will be talking about that further tonight. The council will also approve hiring John Cooper to be its, who is a former Metro Legal Director, to return to the council as its legal counsel and staff director. He'll be replacing Mike Jameson, who has gone to the mayor's office to serve as his liaison to this council. Again, as we said before, none of those Coopers are related to each other, and the two are Johns, do not spell their name the same way. Full council agenda is just 8 pages long tonight, so perhaps the meeting will be a short one. We'll add second reading ordinances tonight for the first time. It'll be the first meeting in November on November 5th before the council will actually consider its first, third, and final bills on ordinances tonight. You can follow the meeting if you want as you go to the Metro Council's website, to the Nashville.gov website. You can find the council agenda online. We'll also be placing the bill numbers that will be debated at the particular time. They're up for debate on the screen. You can see that for consideration, so you can follow along and keep up with where we are. Let's now go to Vice Mayor Jim Shulman, who's about to gavel tonight's meeting to order.
You ready? You got everybody in place? Okay, that's why. Okay. You ready? Hannah, you set? Okay. So will the meeting please come to order? Welcome to the Metro Council. Today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2019. So all members of the council, as well as the public, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Invocation this evening will be offered by former council member Brenda Haywood, a guest of council member Bob Mendes.
I have a reading for each one of you, each one of my fellow council members, and it goes like this. Sometimes you need help, even to ask for one's help. As you try to do several things at once, you will find yourself moving faster and faster, interrupting one thing and doing another. If your phone rings at any particular time, your stress level goes even higher. The best way out of this turmoil is to stop everything. Take a few deep breaths and whisper my name. Acknowledge your need for my guidance through those intangible moments of each day. I will lovingly lead you along paths of righteousness for my name's sake. When you are preparing to do something challenging, you usually take time to enlist my help. But when you're facing everyday tasks, you tend to drive it all by yourself, unassisted, as if you can handle these matters alone. How much better it is to approach everything in a humble dismissal of oneself and depending upon me. Whenever you find yourself in a diving mode, ask me to help you and stop and seek me, letting me show you the way to go forward. I will guide you along the best path for your life and for your community. And if you are one that is familiar with the Serenity Prayer, if you will repeat it along with me, or repeat after me. God, grant me the serenity
God grant me the serenity
to accept the things
to accept the things
I cannot change,
I cannot change,
the courage
the courage
to change the things
to change the things
that I can,
that I can,
and of course, the wisdom
and of course, the wisdom
to know
to know.
the difference. May God bless each and every one of you. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So you may be seated. Without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of those members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for adoption of the minutes of the meetings from October 1st, 2019? It's been properly seconded. Without objection, the minutes of the meeting will stand approved as written. Councilmember Porterfield, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. I am asking that we observe a moment of silence. As you may be aware, October is Domestic Violence Month, and unfortunately, on October the 7th, Mayra Garcia and Jaden Taylor, a mother and a son, lost their lives due to a senseless act of domestic violence. Jaden was only 13 years old, and he was an MNPS student. So I'm asking that we observe them in a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. We want to welcome back Councilmember Henderson. Welcome back to the council. Next item on the agenda, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the council floor the Honorable John Cooper, Mayor of Nashville and Davidson County.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. It is great to see all of you tonight, and thank you all for coming on my birthday. I'll keep this brief, but I wanted to give you a report and discuss business that is and will be before this body. Now, since our last meeting, I've met with 29 council people and heard about your district's priorities and your vision for what we can do together over the next 4 years. But first, I would like to recognize that last Friday was National Coming Out Day and to thank our LGBT caucus for bringing forward Resolution 2019-49 tonight. Now, last week, the Convention Center Authority agreed to pay a pilot of $12.62 million a year. These recurring revenue funds will help bridge budget holes and then in future years go to long-term priorities like employee pay. And yesterday, I rescinded the former mayor's executive order number 11 on immigration and announced the formation of a task force to come up with a coherent and coordinated policy. And I'd like to thank Councilwomen Suara and Sepulveda for partnering in this work alongside representatives from our nonprofit sector, MNPS, MNPD, the sheriff, a judge, and a former district attorney general. Now, in keeping with this being the council that gets stuff done, yes, before you very soon will be a request for a rate increase from Metro Water. Our last water and sewer rate increase was in 2011, and prior to that, water rates had not gone up in 13 years. A rate adjustment was recommended but not adopted in 2016, and in 2018, the state found our water and sewer fund to be officially financially distressed, setting in motion a study and ultimately a requirement for action. We've had some of the lowest water rates in the region and indeed the nation over the past 20 years. Chattanooga and Knoxville's rates are more than twice as high as our own. And our rates are lower than all our surrounding cities, including Franklin, Hendersonville, Brentwood, Gallatin, Murfreesboro, Smyrna, as well as Dixon County. Now, meanwhile, Nashville and Davidson County is burdened with an aging and failing infrastructure when it comes to one of our most precious resources, and we must take action. In the first 13 days of October, Metro Water Services responded to 13 emergency water main repairs. Harper Road in District 1, I am not surprised. Haney Avenue in District 2, Dry Creek Road in District 3, Penn Mead Way in District 15, Sparta Road in District 23, Crestmore Road in District 25, Breckenridge in District 34. 65% of our water pipes and 58% of our sewer pipes are over 40 years old. The condition of our sewer system has put us under a $1.5 billion consent decree from the EPA, and our tapped-out water system has stalled growth and limited water pressure in southeast Nashville. Now, we didn't get into this situation overnight, but continued underinvestment can't be our future. The final numbers from Metro Water's consultant will be ready this week. It will be up to us to implement this mandated change. This is a hard but important step to improving our neighborhood infrastructure. And I'm counting on your esteemed members of this council, especially Bob Mendez, Quante Toombs, and Angie Henderson, to help meet this challenge head on as chairs and vice chair of Budget and Finance and Public Works. Now, this decision allows for the proper level of investment in your districts over the next 4 years and secures the finances of Metro Water Services. And I encourage each of you to sit down with John Honeysucker over the next few weeks to learn how this rate change will advance projects in your district. Now, when Faye DeMassimo gets to work as my senior advisor for transportation and infrastructure, I hope each of you will make it a priority to work with her on your ideas for improving traffic and public transportation in each of your districts. Faye is deeply accomplished in local transportation planning and implementation, and with nearly 40 years of experience in the public and private sector. She comes to us from Atlanta to help us learn from any mistakes Atlanta may have made and to implement cost-effective solutions. Now, before I go, I must say I need your help tonight in confirming Kevin Crumbo as Finance Director. This is his first full week on the job, and he's going to be a huge asset for us as a city. And at the first meeting in November, I'm asking you to vote for Bob Cooper to be the Metro Legal Director. He is a lawyer's lawyer and was an outstanding state attorney general. Bob has experience in administering what must be very much a law firm, our law firm, for the public. I'm thrilled that he is joining us. Now, I'm happy to spend a bit of my birthday with you. This will be the council that gets stuff done, and thank you all very much.
So who brought the present for Mayor Cooper? Has somebody got it on their desk? Okay, good. Just pass it around to the front. Y'all set? Okay. All right, so we now move to elections and confirmations. We're going to go through this fairly slowly. We have a bunch tonight. Let's make sure we've got this right. All right, so the first item on the agenda under elections and confirmations is the election of our pro tem. Pursuant to Rule 2 of our rules that we're operating under, a pro tem shall be elected by the council to serve in the absence of the vice mayor. Upon the resignation or death of the vice mayor, the pro tem shall serve as the council's presiding officer in place of the vice mayor until a vice mayor shall be elected and qualified. Term of the pro tem shall expire on August 31st of the following year. Pursuant to Rule 42, I will take nominations from the floor. No second is required. I will give the nominee 5 minutes in which to speak. If they so prefer, they can yield time to others who wish to speak on their behalf. No more than 5 minutes for a candidate. What that means is someone can nominate someone for the pro tem and can talk, and they can yield their time to another person, and then they can also yield their time to the nominee. So everybody has 5 minutes in which to speak. Madam Clerk, you got it? All right. So any questions before we get started? Councilmember Pulley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I rise to nominate Councilmember Jeff Syracuse for this position. Jeff is an ideal candidate for pro tem because of his ability to help create cohesion and consensus on the council. He is fair-minded, thoughtful, pragmatic, and has a track record of being supportive of this body as a whole. His efforts over the first term show that he is not only supporting his district, he is trying to bring positive solutions to the table that impact all of us positively. Two of our biggest challenges in Nashville and Davidson County are transit and affordable housing. And he continues to work tirelessly to capitalize on the opportunities his district presents with transit-oriented development around Donaldson Station that will help reduce traffic congestion while supporting meaningful transit opportunities and being inclusive with affordable housing at its core. Jeff has been a well-respected member of this body, and I know his heart is in the right place, and he will serve us well as pro tem. I am proud to nominate Jeff to serve in this position, and I yield the balance of my time.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Pulley. Anybody else wishing to speak on behalf of Councilmember Syracuse? Or Councilmember Syracuse, you're also recognized. But Councilmember Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm also honored to speak in favor of Jeff Syracuse from Council District 15 for this position. I've known Jeff for years as really a model neighborhood leader from his time working with neighborhoods, supporting neighborhoods, developing neighborhood associations, being on the board of Neighbor to Neighbor, representing the Hermitage Police Precinct community. He is he's all in. He shows up for everything that you ask of him. He's there, and especially considering that there's so many of us newbies, I have found him to be very generous with his information and sharing his resources and his understanding of processes, and I am really honored to recommend him for this role. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anybody else wishing to speak on behalf of Councilmember Syracuse? Councilmember Syracuse, you're recognized.
Vice Mayor, thank you very much. Members of Council, thank you very much as well. I've really enjoyed this whole process, especially the opportunity to get to know some of our first-term members. Over the last 4 years, I've been very proactive in trying to seek ways to be collaborative and work well with all my colleagues. I now wish to bring that experience to serve this body to a greater extent as pro tem. I pledge to each of you to continue to be selfless and support your districts as we all move forward together. I see the role as pro tem to be supportive of every district in all 4 corners of the county. I pledge to be inclusive and supportive of all of us. A few examples, if I can run through these real quick. When Neighbor to Neighbor, formerly Neighborhood Resource Center, faced serious challenges both fiscally and structurally, as neighborhood leaders before we were elected, Councilman Withers and I stepped up and helped the organization become stable again. I restructured the bylaws and the board so that there were representatives on the board from each of our 8 police precincts to ensure that inclusion and equitable representation across the county occurred. As the chair of Parks, Library, and Arts, I was very supportive of the exciting efforts of the Friends of Mill Ridge Park and became a member in order to financially support the incredible opportunities that this new regional park has for all our Antioch and Southeast neighbors. When I discovered that one of our original blues and R&B clubs left on Jefferson Street where Jimi Hendrix played in, I worked with the Elks Lodge leaders, Metro Historic, and former Councilman Ed Kindle to apply a historic overlay to that property to ensure that this critical piece of our cultural history is protected. And then when I heard from so many of my musicians, friends, right after I got elected about their continued struggles with parking and loading zones, I worked with the clubs, our musicians union, and Premier Parking to create a parking program to bring stability and support to those that truly create the brand of Music City. So I further pledge that I'll continue to bring a high ethical standard and transparency as our representative on the Metro Board of Ethical Conduct. And I consider it a sacred trust just to serve on this body. So tonight, I am asking for your support of me as our next pro tem, and will work diligently and faithfully for all of us. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Syracuse. Other nominations? Any other nominations? Do I have a motion to have the nomination cease? So I have a motion for the nominations to cease. It's been properly seconded. So we'll vote on that motion right now. Everybody who wishes to just close the nominations, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Nominations cease. We only have one candidate. So I believe that we can just have a motion to declare that Councilmember Syracuse is appointed as our pro tem by unanimous vote. Got a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Councilmember Syracuse is our pro tem. All right, so Councilmember Syracuse, I've got to go now, so if you can come up here. All right, we are now ready to select 2 members for the Audit Committee of the Metropolitan Government. These are nominations and election for 2 vacancies, each for a 2-year term, expiring August 31st, 2021. The floor, it's the same procedures we had just a few minutes ago, except we do elect 2. Same rules from before. The floor is now open for nominations for council representatives for the Audit Committee. Councilmember Mendez, you're recognized.
I would like to nominate Councilmember Zulfat Suara.
Okay. I have a nomination for Councilmember Suara. Would you like to make any comments?
Well, during the summer, while we were campaigning, I think all the at-large folks got to the point where we could have given each other's campaign spiel. So one of the things that I think really impressed voters and the rest of the candidates also about Council Lady Suara is the background, not just as a CPA, but specifically doing audits for municipalities. And to have that kind of resource on the audit committee is really a blessing that is really too good to be true. So I would like you to support her for the audit committee. Thank you.
Right. Anybody else wishing to make comments on behalf of Councilmember Suara? Councilmember Suara, you've got 4 minutes if you want to say something. Now I've got people who have just hit their buttons. Councilmember Glover, Councilmember Pulley. This is for Councilmember Suara. So what you want to make a comment? Okay. Councilmember Glover, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You know, I served on this for a few years in my very first term here. A lot of times we don't see how important this position is, but let me assure you it's extremely important. And if you have someone who has the qualifications, the CPA, I think, is a very important qualification in this arena. So I think that it will serve us well if we utilize it and we utilize it properly, and the role is handled in the manner it should be. So with that, I'm honored to be able to vote for her tonight, and I'm glad that she's willing to do this, because it does take time, and it's on off weeks and things of that nature. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Pulley, is this a separate nomination, or is it on Councilmember? Okay, so Councilmember Pulley's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Although I wasn't on the campaign trail with you guys, I certainly have had the pleasure for the past 2 years of serving on the Metro Action Commission board with Council Lady Suara, and I've got to see her in action through that capacity. And I found her to be not only well qualified with the qualifications that you've all enumerated, but very thoughtful, very articulate, and willing to dive deeply into the issues. So I just wanted to make that brief statement on her behalf and stand in support of this nomination. I think she'll do an outstanding job.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulley. Councilmember Hurt on the same nomination or a different nomination? All right, Councilmember Hurt, you're recognized.
I just too stand, and I'm so impressed with the support that has been professed this evening in support of our council lady. It just gives me great joy, and I just stand so proudly to join these fine council members who have expressed great things about our council lady, and I ask also for everyone to support the nomination.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Suara, there's nobody else in the queue. Do you want to say something, or do you want to stop while you're ahead? Hold on.
Thank you.
Oh, that was quick. All right. All right, so one nomination is Councilmember Suara. Councilmember Syracuse, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to nominate District 23 Councilmember Tom Druffel. Holding an MBA in finance, he has been in the hospitality industry for many years, managed very large budgets, north of $200 million. I think he'd be an incredible asset and has got a very analytical and very strong financial acumen. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Syracuse. Anybody else wishing to speak on behalf of Councilmember Druffel? Councilmember Druffel, you're recognized if you'd like to make comments.
Just as Mr. Syracuse suggested, I had the chance so far in the first couple meetings to be on the Budget Finance Committee and just have a great opportunity to see the depth of what we're doing, and would appreciate the opportunity to possibly work on this committee to get to know our city a little bit better from the finance side. So like I said, I have an MBA in finance. I used to manage 50 hotels around the country with $200+ million budgets, and feel like I have the opportunity to get a good sense of financial of worth and decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Druffel. Okay, so other nominations? Seeing none, how about I entertain a motion to accept these two nominations? And so that I've got a motion to close the nominations and accept these two individuals as the new members of the Audit Committee. Properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Congratulations to Councilmember Suara and Councilmember Druffel. You are our two new members of the Audit Committee. So I also serve on the Audit Committee, and they should be standing for you all right now. Okay.
The original vote was
A lot of work,
8-0.
but
Somebody just
congratulations and welcome to the Audit Committee.
did not vote. Doris was making that note. She said they tried to correct it. It was 8-0.
So next item on the agenda is the Community Education Committee. What we were going to try to do tonight was take announcements of nominees for an election to be held on November 5th, 2019. We're talking about 3 vacancies with 3-year terms expiring August 31st, 2022. So let me explain what's happened. There has been some confusion, however, on all this raised by a couple of council members about this process, which has resulted in several individuals not getting their information on time. Nobody's fault. It just happened. And so there was confusion about some people that got filed on time, some people filed on time but didn't get their notices in time. There were other people who filed late. Unless there's an objection, what we'd like to do in the spirit of fairness to all the parties interested is to extend the deadline to get the nominations and questionnaires in for these positions. So if you're interested in nominating an individual for one of these positions, you must not only get a nomination letter into the Metropolitan Clerk's office, but also make sure the candidate fills out their questionnaire and have it into the the Clerk's office by 4:30. This is to Elizabeth Waits, our Metropolitan Clerk's office, by 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2019. That's a week from tomorrow. Has to be in by 4:30 p.m. We will then proceed after that to have the elections for the 3 positions on November 5th. All we're doing is pushing it back a little bit to make sure that everybody has a fair chance at getting a nomination in. It got complicated again, nobody's fault, but just in order to be fair and transparent, we'd like to extend it a week and a day. So if you have someone you wish to nominate, please get your nomination letter in to the Metropolitan Clerk's office by Wednesday, next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, along with the questionnaire, which you can get from the Metropolitan Clerk's office. Any questions about that? Again, these are positions of people that we want to serve, and we want to make sure that if people do want to be nominated and get a chance to serve, that we make sure that we give everybody a fair opportunity to get their information in. Okay? Any questions about that? We will send something out, but again, it has to be in by 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time a week from tomorrow. Got it? All right. So Industrial Development Board is next. We now take up nominations for the Industrial Development Board. There are 3 vacancies to be filled here. These are 6-year terms ending on August 31st, 2025. Tonight we're taking nominations for an election on November the 5th. All we're doing tonight is taking nominations, so the floor is open for nominations. Councilmember Mendes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to nominate Sarah Clark Hanna.
Okay. Sarah Clark Hanna.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Johnston, you're recognized.
I'd like to nominate Tequila Johnson.
Okay. Councilmember Johnston nominates Tequila Johnson. Is that right? Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Benedict, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to nominate Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis. Is that the Anthony Davis that used to sit in your chair?
Indeed.
Okay, thank you. Just checking. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Stiles, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to nominate Andy Bhakta, and that's BHAKTA.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. Let's see. I've got Councilmember Benedict. You've already done one. Another one? Okay, you're good. And I've still got Councilmember Johnston, so I just got to knock these things off. You've already taken care of your nomination, right? Anything else? Okay, we're good. All right. All right, any other nominations? Make sure I've got this. Sarah, the nominees for these positions, we've got 3 vacancies. Sarah Clark Hanna, Tequila Johnson, Anthony Davis, and Andy Botka. Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, so those are our 4 nominations. There's information, I think, that's due into the clerk's office. Madam Clerk, when does that information have to be into your office?
My understanding from our discussion earlier was that there's no set deadline in the rules, so it would be subject to the discretion of the Vice Mayor.
Okay. So any specific time? So they're going to be voted on November the 5th. So let's see if we can get a note out to those individuals, and let's see that if we can get them in by a week from this Friday. Close the business a week from this Friday. And Madam Clerk, if you may need to get the information, mailing addresses from the individuals if you don't already have them, okay? All right. So again, for the people who made the nominations, questionnaires are due in a week from Friday, close of business, 4:30 p.m. Friday, October the 25th, 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, into the Metropolitan Clerk's office. Any questions from anyone about that? Okay, seeing none, we move on. The next position, we're now taking nominations for the council's chairmanship of the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee. This person will also serve on the Planning Commission, 2-year term expiring on August 31st, 2021. We're now taking nominations. Councilmember Swope, you're recognized.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to nominate Steve Glover.
Okay, so I have a motion for Steve Glover, and this would be to be chair of the Planning and Zoning and Historical Committee. Okay. All right, so I have a nomination for Councilmember Glover. I've got Councilmember Young. You're recognized. Say it again? Okay, so you can go ahead and make a nomination for this. We're just going ahead and take nominations, then we'll come back.
Well, in that case, I'll nominate Councilmember Kathleen Murphy, who we all know has worked very hard for not her district, but the whole county as well.
Okay.
And I'd like to yield to Councilmember O'Connell.
All right, Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Over the past term, I think anybody who has served on the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee has seen Councilmember Murphy's detailed attentiveness to policy, and I think that is something that is going to serve the chair of this committee well as the Planning Commission. So I'm lending her my support as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on behalf of Councilmember Murphy? Because then we're going to come back and I'll take 5 minutes for Councilmember Glover. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I appreciate all of my colleagues, your attention to this, especially for new folks. Coming before the Planning Commission can be a little bit intimidating, and those of us who've been at it a while will be there alongside you and we'll support you. I had, a while back, submitted a letter nominating myself for this position, and what I have decided to do is to lend my support to Councilmember Kathleen Murphy. We have very somewhat similar districts in that we have a lot of historic districting, also a lot of pikes that we're trying to redevelop in regards to Nashville Next. I think Councilmember Murphy has done a really good job of advocating for policy and being very detail-oriented, and I'm happy to lend my support to Councilmember Murphy at this time. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember. Anybody else wishing to speak on behalf of Councilmember Murphy? Then I'm going to go to Councilmember Murphy. You're recognized for any comments.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you to Councilman Withers. He and I have had a number of discussions while he was still considering this position, and so I appreciate you stepping up tonight and speaking on my behalf, and also to Councilman Young and Councilman Freddie O'Connell. Over the past several weeks, I have reached out to many of you, and I think probably tracked you down, whether you wanted it or not. Potentially, that might be the way it's described. But what I have at least tried to demonstrate to y'all is my passion, not just to make sure that we are planning and growing Nashville in the right directions with smart growth, but also try to individually learn more about your districts and learn about things that I might not be aware of, although I am familiar countywide. And so I really would appreciate your support and your vote tonight so we can continue to make Nashville a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Murphy. All right, so now let me make sure, do we have any other nominations for the position of chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go back to Councilmember Swope, and out of respect, give you 5 minutes with Councilmember Glover being allowed to speak. Councilmember Swope, any other comments?
I'll just reiterate my nomination of at-large Councilman Glover. He has been here for 8 years. I think he has seen just about everything there is to see on a county-wide basis, and he has my complete and total support. And I will defer the rest of my time to him.
All right, Councilmember Glover, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Well, you know, I decided to do this, and I didn't lobby anybody, and I didn't lobby anybody on purpose, because I wanted just to be able to stand up here and tell you what I feel like this position is and what I think the responsibility is of that chair. It is my opinion, and I believe it's the right thing to do, that when you're elected by this body to represent this body on the Planning Commission, that you represent the various districts and what they want to accomplish in their districts. Whether you necessarily agree or disagree, they're still the people who are elected by the people in their district to represent that district. And so therefore, I think it's absolutely critical that when the chair approaches this, that they approach it with that set of eyes. And I'll just use, you know, I've had several people reach out to me about various district issues so far, and not once have I said, well, let me jump in there. What I've said is the same thing I'll say on this, is have you talked to your district council member? You know, let's see where they are, because first of all, I don't want to interfere with that. I want to make sure I'm respectful in that arena. And I also, I mean, if you go back a few years ago, you would literally see, and I doubt anybody remembers J.B. Loring, but J.B. Loring was the representative, perhaps you do, Vice Mayor, but, you know, J.B. Loring, a lot of times, the rest of the commission would vote no on something, and he would vote yes, because the district council person says, I support this, and this is what I want. So I bring this to your attention simply because I think it's critical that the district council person's knowledge be utilized and be heard loud and clear by whoever that chair is. And so I'm offering up my name. It is not something that I did lightly. I actually ran for this 4 years ago, and we had a pretty close race. I purposely did not reach out to anyone on this for a very intentional reason. The very first thing that we heard on the very first Saturday that we gathered was, don't commit to anything. Make sure you understand what's happening until the very end. And so I waited until the very end to do this. I'm not going to be offended either way that it goes. I think, though, that it's extremely important that we keep in mind, whoever the chair is. I hope, if it's me, I will make sure, and I'll pledge to you right now, I will always stay focused on what you're wanting to accomplish in your district. And with that, Vice Mayor, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Glover. So we have 2 people nominated for this position. The nominations you've heard of Councilmember Steve Glover and Councilmember Kathleen Murphy. So the way this works is that the clerk is going to program their names into the voting system, and then we're going to go on the board and we will elect a planning committee chair. Madam Clerk, you ready? All right, so you don't have to worry about you're going to have their names on the screen, so you just hit the name that you want to vote for. All right, any questions before we start? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, open up the machine.
Yes, I have 2 people. Okay. Okay.
So has everybody voted? No, I don't think everybody's voted.
Well, I saw them vote, but they didn't show up.
It's these, yeah. So Councilmember Suara, it's not showing up on my board. Have you voted? There we go. We've got it. All right. Everybody voted. Anybody wish to change their vote? Don't worry about it right now. All right. Madam Clerk?
No, don't worry about it right now.
Close the machines. Take the vote.
Button.
All right, so we want to just keep the suspense going for a little while longer.
Okay.
Here we go. So Councilmember Murphy got 37 votes. Mr. Glover got 3 votes. Congratulations to Councilmember Murphy. You're the new Planning Committee Chair. Okay. So Councilmember Murphy, as your first act of business, it's to get this machine working so that we don't have to wait so long for the vote. Okay. Madam Clerk, you ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so the next item of business is Traffic, Parking, and Transportation Committee. This is nominations and election for chair who will also serve on the Traffic and Parking Commission. So it's committee chair and serves on the Traffic and Parking Commission. It's a 2-year term expiring August 31st, 2021. I will now take nominations. Councilmember Hager, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Without reservation, I want to nominate Councilman Freddie O'Connell. He's always had my back here, and I've been the chairman of that committee for 2 years. I've enjoyed every minute that I've went to all the meetings. And fortunately, maybe we won't have to vote on privatizing the parking, so he won't have to be burdened with that situation. And Councilman O'Connell has done a good job. He's innovative. He'll come up with a lot of great ideas, and he has an area of town that I'm sure needs all the help he can get with parking and traffic and things of that nature. I think he'll do a great job, and I'll support him, give him my full support. Yield my time to Council Lady Angie Henderson as well.
All right. Councilmember Henderson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I also rise in support of Councilman O'Connell, who has ably served most recently as chair of the Public Works Committee, on which I served, and I served with him as vice chair. I have always appreciated that Councilman O'Connell brings a really broad perspective and understanding of these issues across the nation with our peer cities, and then, of course, very particular to his own district, a lot of engagement with this commission for the district that he serves. I think he's also very mindful and aware of the transportation part of this committee. And so with that, I heartily encourage your support and join in nominating him and supporting his nomination. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Anybody else wishing to speak on behalf of Councilmember O'Connell? Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to my colleagues for that nomination. Just to quickly echo something that Councilmember Hager alluded to, he's got an office downtown and has seen firsthand some of the challenges that are peculiar to District 19 and knows that this commission does a lot of that work. There has been an increase, obviously, in that amount of activity, and I look forward to working with all my colleagues across 35 districts, as well as those at-large members who observe things that need attention. I think this next couple of years, as the city continues to grow at unprecedented rates, we're going to need some very specific attention to all three of these issues of traffic, parking, and transportation. I look forward to doing the job. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. All right. Other nominations for this position? All right, so I got a motion to elect Councilmember O'Connell by acclamation. Do I have a second? Got a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Councilmember O'Connell, congratulations. All right, before we get to the last item on elections and confirmations, I did want to recognize a couple of individuals, special guests that we have in the audience. First of all, we have former council member Ludi Wallace. Councilmember Wallace. Councilmember Wallace keeps coming back to these meetings. That makes me nervous. Property Assessor Vivian Wilhoit is back there somewhere. There she is, Councilmember Wilhoit. We have a special guest. Pastor Fuzz is here. I see Pastor Fuzz. You are not allowed to talk on the microphone. And a big special recognition to Talia Lomax O'Neill, the former finance director. Where is she? Ms. O'Neill, I'm using Vice Mayor privilege. Would you like to say anything to the council? Or are you good after 8 years of, or how many years you've been doing this?
I just want to say, for those of you who I did have the opportunity to work with over the last 4 years, it may have seemed at times that it was a difficult thing, but I have truly, truly enjoyed so many of you that I got to work with for the last 4 years. And I want to give a special shout out to Councilmember Vercher, who was particularly helpful during her term as Budget and Finance Chair. So I have many, many thanks in this room, and I appreciate the opportunity. And I am so happy about the gentleman that will be before you in just a few moments. I could not be happier. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your service. All right, next item on the agenda, Director of Department of Metropolitan Finance. This is appointment in accordance with Section 8.102 of the Metropolitan Charter. I believe I have to go to Councilmember Rosenberg. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rules Committee considered the nomination of Mr. Crumbo and voted 8 in favor and 0 against.
All right, so can I have a motion for approval of Mr. Crumbo as the Director of the Department of Metropolitan Finance? Councilman Rosenberg, I'll let you make the motion. Got it?
Move approval.
Okay, and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Mr. Crumbo is now the Director of the Department of Metropolitan Finance. Mr. Crumbo, do you want to be recognized? And Mr. Crumbo, if you want, you are welcome onto the floor to sit up here in the front. Or if you... Oh, I thought he was trying to leave. No, you can come around the side. Okay, thank you, members. That was quite a bit of... Do you want to just come on right on through? And don't stop to talk to anybody on your way in, because I'm sure they'll want something, all right? Welcome to the Metropolitan Council, okay? All right, so thank you all for working through the elections and confirmations. That we knew that was going to be a little while. It was going to take some time. All right, the next thing before we get to the public comment period, as you know, I had talked about creating special committees. That's pursuant to Rule 6. The Vice Mayor has the power to appoint special committees. Been working on appointing each of you to one of these extra special committees. The basic rules behind this, these are specific questions that we want these special committees to look at. These are not standing committees. They will expire on January 31st, 2020, and there will be a report due at that time from the committees. They are only going to last 3.5 months. They're very, very quick. Again, these are not standing committees, but special committees to meet at the call of the specific chair. These committees are also going to include Nashvillians who are being asked to work with the council, to serve with the council to help solve these specific issues. Now, tonight, I'm announcing the council members and the chair, a member of the council, of those committees. The citizen members will be named within the week. We have been working through this. At the last minute, we got a number of people, a number of citizens who wanted to be involved in this, so we're still working through it. We will have that available to you within the week. But tonight, we're getting ready to pass out the 2019 special committees. Now, the way this is supposed to work, and the reason why we have said that this is going to be done through January 31st, 2020, we'll have more time the second year, is that if the committees come up with recommendations that need to be passed along to the mayor's office, to Councilmember Mendez and the Budget Committee, we had specific requests to get them done by January 31st so they can be passed along in case there are needs that are required so they can get in front of the proper, either the committees or to the mayor's office to see if we need extra money to take care of those. That's why there is a quick rush on these. I will also tell you that if this works, we haven't tried this before. If this works, we start answering these questions, then in the second year, we'll have 8 more special committees. We'll see how this works. All right, so I'm now going to announce the committees, and again, just the council members and the chairs of those special committees, and then we will, in the next week, get you the citizen members as well. First committee, why are Nashvillians not voting and what steps can be taken to get more citizens engaged? The council members are as follows. Councilmember Welsh, Chair. Councilmember Rutherford, Bradford, Syracuse, Porterfield. Again, council members Welsh, who serves as chair, Rutherford, Bradford, Syracuse, Porterfield. Count of the special committee number 2, what steps can be taken working with the school board to make sure that teachers do not have to pay out of pocket for school supplies for their classrooms? While that committee is looking at that issue, what about the textbook situation? Are there enough to go around? And if not, why? The committee for that is going to be chaired by Councilmember Hancock. The members are Councilmembers Hancock, Suara, Withers, Young, and Rosenberg. Again, Hancock as the chair, Suara, Withers, Young, and Rosenberg. Special committee number 3, it seems like almost everywhere you go, especially downtown, there are full and partial street closures. Are they all properly permitted before an entity is allowed to close the street? Are plans established and carried out to deal with traffic backup? If they are not permitted or allowed to be blocking streets, why is no one enforcing stopping them from doing this? I ran into at least 2 in the last 2 days that are not properly permitted. The members of this committee are Council Members Parker, who is going to serve as chair, Henderson, Swope, Roden, and Hager. Council Members Parker serving as chair, Henderson, Swope, Roden, and Hager. The 4th special committee, sidewalks, a perpetual issue for Nashville. Who has the list of current and future sidewalks? How is that list determined? How much does it cost to build a linear foot of sidewalk in Nashville? How does that cost compare with other peer cities? And is there a way to reduce the cost so that we can get more sidewalks? Those council members are Council Members Benedict will serve as chair, Evans, Lee, Roberts, and Hall. Again, Council Members Benedict serving as chair, Evans, Lee, Roberts, and Hall. Special committee number 5, zip code 37208. It has, according to reports, the highest percentage of incarceration in the country. What do we need to do to correct that? Council members on that special committee, Council Members Taylor will serve as chair, Hurt, O'Connell, Toombs, and Vircher. Again, Council Members Taylor serving as chair, Hurt, O'Connell, Toombs, and Vircher. Special committee number 6, teachers, firefighters, police, metro employees. Where do our employees fit on the pay schedule? How do we compare to our peer cities? Do our employees feel valued? What can and should be done about this? Committee members, council members on this, Council Members Nash will serve as chair, Hauser, Pulley, Cash, and Mendez. Again, Council Members Nash serving as chair, Hauser, Pulley, Cash, Mendez. Special committee number 7, what are the current after-school opportunities for our young people in Nashville, and what should they be? What are the current after-school opportunities for our young people in Nashville, and what should they be? The council members on this special committee, Council Members Gamble will serve as chair, Druffel, Allen, Sepulveda, Glover. Again, Council Members Gamble serving as chair, Druffel, Allen, Sepulveda, Glover. And the 8th and last special committee, enforcement of our code. The council can pass all the ordinances that it wants to, but if the law is not being enforced, the ordinance do not mean very much. Working with the codes department, determine the extent of our enforcement efforts, what is being enforced, how quickly are we able to respond to a concern, are we properly staffed, what areas need updating. The council members on that, Council Members Johnston will serve as chair, Stiles, Van Rees, Murphy, and Sledge. Again, Council Members Johnston serving as chair, Stiles, Van Rees, Murphy, and Sledge. I believe copies of this have all been passed out to you. If you have, anybody got any questions about that? Here they come. Wait a minute, Councilmember Hager? Councilmember Hager has asked about committee number 9. I was going to put Councilmember Hager on that committee by himself, which didn't do anything, and then I changed my mind and put him back on a committee. Yeah. So I will be calling the committee chairs in. If you notice, these are all new members of the council. I was going to try to make everybody a co-chair. I just couldn't pull that one off. If this works again, if we get good solutions to these specific problems, which you know are issues in this city, then we will try again next year with 8 other special committees, and we will be appointing different chairs at that point. Any questions regarding that? Again, we certainly appreciate your willingness to do it. These are not standing committees. Again, it's a short time frame. I will be meeting with the committee chairs, and in the next week, you will see citizens being named to these committees as well. All right, moving on. We are now on the public comment period. So let me explain how this works. On the second meeting of the month, for council members, we have in the past been having what's known as a public comment period. This is a time dedicated to members of the general public who have registered in advance to speak on issues relevant to Nashville and Davidson County. They sign up in the council office and they come and speak. Okay. They actually get registered. That information is presented to us. Our office takes care of that. People sign up again in advance. Tonight, we have no one that signed up. So we will have no comment period, but I'm just letting you know that, again, on the second meeting of the month, we allow for public comment from the general public on issues of a general nature. We do not let them talk on specific issues on matters in front of us. All right? So moving on, we are now on the second page of your calendar. This is Special Council Resolution, Resolution RS 2019-36 by Councilmember Mendez. It's a resolution authorizing the employment of John Cooper as Special Counsel and Director of the Council Office for the Metropolitan County Council. Councilmember Mendez, you are recognized.
Move approval.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve, properly seconded. I will tell you that I think there's a requirement that there is a committee report. The committee report is not necessarily from budget, it's from the executive committee where it was brought up. The executive committee is made up of the chairs of all the standing committees. This resolution was approved by that committee 8-0. All right, so we have a motion to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're on the resolution. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Resolution RS 2019-36 is adopted. Please, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, welcome John Cooper as our Special Counsel and Director of the Council. And as Mr. Cooper takes his seat, we have two people to thank. First, Hannah Zeitlin for acting as interim chair. And we recognized Mr. Mike Jameson last meeting, but thank you, Mr. Jameson, and good luck in your new position. All right, we now move on to resolutions on public hearing. So we had one last time, so what happens is I'll call up the resolution and then refer to the sponsor unless the sponsor moves to defer the public hearing. Sponsor will call for a public hearing, then ask for a show of hands for those who are here in favor. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak on either side, they come forward, introduce themselves, give us the address, and then they have 3 minutes in which to speak. After that, close the public hearing, refer back to the sponsor, and that's how we do it. First resolution up tonight is RS 2019-37 by Councilmember Murphy. Resolution exempting the turnip truck located at 5001 Charlotte Avenue from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining a beer permit pursuant to Section 7.08.090E of the Metropolitan Code. Councilmember Murphy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Open the public hearing or committee reports?
No, I think we need committee reports. And I believe I'm going to go to Councilmember Pulley for public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Public safety, beer, and regulated beverages, recommended approval of this resolution. Resolution 6 in favor and 0 against.
All right, now back to you, Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing, please.
All right, declare the public hearing open. Like to see a show of hands of those who are here in support of this resolution. Show of hands of those who are in opposition to this resolution. Seeing none, declare the public hearing closed.
Thank you.
Councilmember Murphy, you're recognized.
I would like to move for approval.
Okay, got a motion to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. RS 2019-38 -38 by Councilmember Sledge, resolution exempting the Cordell located at 1420 3rd Avenue South from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining a beer permit pursuant to Section 7.08.090E of the Metropolitan Code. Councilmember Sledge, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Committee report, Councilmember Pooley, Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Public safety, beer, and regulated beverages met, and recommended approval of this resolution, 6 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Sledge.
Request to open the public hearing.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. Show of hands of those who are here in support of this measure. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to the measure. Seeing none, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Approval.
Okay, got a motion to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Thank you, Councilmember Sledge. Okay, now we're now on resolutions, we're going to go through the consent agenda. Want to make sure that we have everything listed on the consent agenda. Let me pull my sheet, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through those items that are on the consent agenda, and then see if anything needs to be bumped off the consent agenda. Okay. Okay, so these are items that are on the consent agenda. I've got resolution RS 29-39, 2019-40, 41 on the consent agenda, 43 on the consent agenda, 40 resolution RS 2019-45 on consent, 2019-46 on consent, 47 on consent, 48 on consent, and I've got listed 49 on consent at this point. Anything need to be bumped? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go through these items on the consent agenda. I'm going to read the captions, and then we take committee reports. So RS 2019-39, Mendes and Sledge, resolution appropriating the amount of $11,312,800 from the General Fund Reserve Fund for the purchase of equipment and building repairs for various departments of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County. Resolution RS 2019-40 by Councilmember Mendez, a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department of Law compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Brian Reeves against the Metropolitan Government in the amount of $131,340.39 paid out of the Self-Insured Liability Fund. Resolution RS 2019-41 by Councilmembers Sledge and Allen. Resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department of Development and Housing Agency to negotiate and enter into a pilot agreement and accept payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to a multifamily housing project located at 1501 Hillside Avenue, known as Hillside Flats. Resolution RS 2019-43, O'Connell, Mendes, and others. Resolution accepting a grant from Keep Tennessee Beautiful to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metro Public Works Department to implement a cigarette litter prevention and recycling campaign at Riverfront Park. Resolution RS 2019-45, O'Connell and Murphy, a resolution authorizing the Broadway Hotel LLC doing business as Moxie to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 110 3rd Avenue South. Resolution RS 2019-46 by Councilmember Vercher, a resolution honoring Commander Paul Shelburne Trickey upon his retirement from service within the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department. Resolution RS 2019-47, Alan Murphy and others. Resolution honoring commending David Williams upon his outstanding leadership and many accomplishments as Vice Chancellor and Athletics Director of Vanderbilt University. And Resolution RS 2019-48 by Council Members Van Rees, Welch, and others. Resolution celebrating the Votes for Women project, a permanent exhibit set to open at the Nashville Public Library in spring of 2020. And Resolution RS 2019-49, Withers, Van Rees, and others. Resolution recognizing October 2019 as LGBT History Month in Nashville and Davidson County, and October 11, 2019 as Nashville Coming Out Day. Anything need to be bumped off the calendar? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go to committee reports. Councilmember Mendes, you're recognized for Budget and Finance.
Okay, so the Budget and Finance Committee looked at 4 of the items on the consent agenda. All of them were approved, 11 for and 0 against. Those 4 items are RS 2019-39, -40, -41, and -43.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Allen, Ad hoc Affordable Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Ad hoc Affordable Housing recommended Resolution RS 2019-41 for approval, 5 in favor, none against.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Hager, you're recognized on 2019-43, Parks Library.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Hager.
I thought I was on traffic. I apologize. We approved that, 1640 against. Apologize.
How quickly we forget. Councilmember Murphy, Planning and Zoning, you're recognized. It's RS 2019-45.
We approved 9 in favor, 0 against.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Henderson, Public Works.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Public Works Committee recommended approval for Resolution 2019-43 and 45, 9 in favor, 0 against.
All right.
Recommending approval.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Rosenberg, you've got rules confirmations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules Committee had resolutions 46, 47, 48, 49, and voted 8 in favor and 0 against on all of them. And with all committee reports in, move approval of the consent agenda.
All right, got a motion to approve. Can I get a second? Properly seconded. Any discussion? Hold on just a minute. Councilmember Hurt? Yeah, no, Okay, all right. All right, so we have a motion to approve all the resolutions on the consent agenda, properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. All right, so now we go back to resolutions that were not on the consent agenda. We are on Resolution RS 2019-30. This is on page 2 of your calendar by Councilmember Vercher. Resolution urging the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle the claim of Shondell Brooks as next of kin of Aquila da Silva against the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, requesting that the Metro Legal Department resolve this action expediently and requesting that the Emergency Communications Center adopt a policy for 911 call takers regarding GPS coordinates. Councilmember Vercher, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report.
All right, Councilor Mendez, you're recognized.
Budget and Finance Committee voted to approve this, 6 in favor, 3 against.
Okay, Councilmember Vercher.
And thank you, Vice Mayor. Due to the nature of this resolution, we do have members from the public that feel that the body needs to hear their positions as it relates to this resolution. I would like to invoke Rule 32 if the body sees so fitting. I would encourage the body to support the invocation of the rule. Again, this is very sensitive for the city.
Right. So since this is new, we don't typically have this rule invoked. Rule 32 is the public addressing the council. So let me read it to you. Members of the public may address the council in a public hearing format regarding a specific resolution or ordinance when a public hearing is not otherwise required by law. If the council approves a council member's motion by a 2/3 vote of the council members present at such meeting to allow members of the public to address the council. This restriction does not apply to zoning matters where all parties concerned should be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each. The Metropolitan Clerk shall keep time in accordance with this rule. So in order to do this, this requires a vote of 2/3 of the council members present at such meeting to allow the public to address the council. So any questions about this? This rule is not invoked very often. This allows the public to address the council on the floor. So what we would have to do is we're going to have to go on the board and then take a 2/3 vote. Okay? So it requires, again, a 2/3 vote of the council members present to allow the public to address the members, at a full council meeting. Questions about that? Just the reason people are talking to each other is that I'm not sure if this was even invoked during the 4 years last term.
Vice Mayor, you can recall there's been rules that I've invoked as.
Right.
So
I'm just checking.
I know the rules, and I use them to my benefit.
All right, so this is Rule 32. Again, I don't believe it was addressed. I know that other rules have been invoked. This rule was not invoked during the last term. That's why I was making sure people have read it. All right, so we're on the board, unless somebody has a question, requires 2/3 of the members present to allow the body to open up to hear from people in the audience. Okay? Madam Clerk? If you open up the machines, take the vote. Or go ahead and get the vote there, and then we'll figure out what the vote is.
I'm sorry. Somebody's probably going to ask. It has the wrong motion on it.
Okay, do you want to back up?
Yeah.
Do it again? All right, so hold on just a second. We're going to pull it back. It has the wrong motion on it. So just hold on. Again, we're not voting on the matter. We are voting on opening up the council body to hear from the public on this matter. Madam Clerk, tell me when you're ready.
I am sorry about that.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, so we are voting on using Rule 32. So you're voting on whether you want to open up the public body to hear from members of the public during the full council meeting. Madam Clerk, open up the machines. Everybody voted who wanted to take a vote? Okay, Madam Clerk, close the machines, take the vote.
25 in favor, 13 against.
So that is, I think it's, so that means that 38 people voted. We're double checking our math.
It was done based on who was in the room. What do you?
Okay, so the vote fails. So Councilmember Virtue, you're back on your resolution.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. That is indeed unfortunate. As a body, we just told this family that their voices are not important to this body. That is indeed very, very, very unfortunate. I ask my colleagues to support this resolution. This is a resolution that I brought before this body the prior council term. There were some concerns as it related to that. The resolution stipulated a judgment amount. Went back and did some work on this resolution. We do these type of resolutions all the time where we encourage various departments that we have no authority over to pursue certain matters. I want to begin by stating just ultimately we have a duty to ensure that our citizens are first and foremost safe. I don't need to rehash the incident regarding this solution. But colleagues, you need to know that this resolution is more than just urging our Department of Law for an expedient resolution. Whatever that may be, this resolution doesn't delve into that because I understand what my legislative authority is. But it also encourages the department to adopt a better practice. Again, we have lives at stake here, and we've had incidents to happen since the Waffle House shooting. We owe it to the community to ensure that there's proper checks and balances as it relates to them delivering overall safety protocols for the city and overall for the citizens. This resolution is about peace for this black family that you didn't want to hear from tonight, and that's okay, because they don't want our pity, they don't want our benevolence. They want us to convey to them that Akila's life actually mattered, and that this government takes seriously the overall safety for everyone. This family does not want this matter to happen again to any other family. I'll be remiss if I didn't say that there's no justice in delaying this, Vice Mayor. Again, this resolution isn't trying to tell the Department of Law when. We're just asking them to make it expedient. At some point, the delay as it relates to this matter is going to be perceived as cruel and uncaring by the Black community. This family, again, they don't want our benevolence, they don't want our pity, but they do want our help in peace and resolve as it relates to this matter. We owe them that. We need to demonstrate to them that this government is decent, that this government does know how to do right by its citizens, and more importantly, that this government does value back life. For that, I ask for your approval in supporting this resolution.
Councilmember Hancock.
I'd like to say thank you to the family of Akila da Silva that came out tonight. And, you know, we're not a jury here.
Hold on, gotcha.
Thank you. We're not a jury here, which is why we're not going to be hearing from you at this point in time, but we do certainly care about you and your loss. However, we should not circumvent our legal process at any point in time. It was put into place in a structure to help evaluate what actually happened. And part of this resolution says something that I believe is incorrect from what I heard when I was here in the council chambers in August talking about this, where it says because the vehicle was dispatched to the wrong location, there was a 10-minute delay. That vehicle was delayed by 10 minutes, but there was also another vehicle that was sent directly to the Waffle House in question. There were multiple calls. There were at least 2 vehicles that I'm aware of that were dispatched, and I don't think we as a council can urge the legal system to rush when all of that information isn't being clearly stated.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Pulley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I echo Councilor Hancock's comments, certainly relative to the family. This is a terrible tragedy, and our hearts go out to the families and the many people in our community deeply affected by this senseless act of violence. That said, I do have some serious concerns about this resolution. And with your indulgence, Mr. Vice Mayor, I would ask a couple of questions of our legal department relative to this.
All right.
So, Mr. Safley, I assume you're the one I would direct these questions to. The resolution states that 911 call takers incorrectly dispatched the emergency response to the Hermitage Waffle House located 10 miles away. It also states that they failed to use available equipment to verify caller locations. So my question to you relative to these 2 points made in the resolution, do you agree that the evidence supports these statements?
At this time, we cannot say that the evidence does or does not support those statements.
If the council passes this resolution, is it your opinion that this can be construed as an admission of guilt on our part?
There is some language that causes concern that is used, that it's possible that at some point, if litigation continues, it could be viewed as an admission by the governing body.
Thank you. There's also a reference made to the Vanderbilt University Medical Center in the resolution. Is it to your knowledge, are they named in a similar lawsuit?
I believe since the time that this resolution was originally presented, a second lawsuit was filed. It was a medical malpractice against Vanderbilt University, claiming that due to malpractice by certain doctors there that Mr. Da Silva was.
Is it possible that if we pass this resolution, it could have some level of impact on that lawsuit?
Well, as little as we know at this point concerning all the facts of this case, we certainly know far less about the facts of a case of which we're not part of. Clearly, if one lawsuit determines that that was the fatal cause of the incident, then that could impact a different lawsuit.
Okay. If we should pass this resolution, would it have any level of impact on you and your ability to objectively evaluate the facts in this case?
The Department of Law and those that are involved in this lawsuit would certainly take note of what the council does. That being said, the charter makes it the department's responsibility. I think it says direct, supervise, and control all law matters of the government, including litigation. So while we would be cognizant of the intent of what the council passed, if this were to pass, it would not change our responsibility to do what's best for the metropolitan government. We would proceed with discovery. We would proceed with evaluating the claim. And if it got to the point, which it very well may, that upon evaluation of all this, we felt that it was in the best interest of the government to propose a settlement, we would bring a settlement to the council at that time.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And what I would say is that we as a council, our hearts go out to the families. And we feel deeply and grieve for them and with them and feel terrible for everyone who has been affected by this. We as a council are being asked here to take a position on a very serious matter and weigh in on a matter of fact which has tremendous legal implications without evaluating a single piece of evidence. In doing so, we bypass the professionals in our legal department we count on to do this job. I believe this sets a terrible precedent, and if we as a city are at fault, as this resolution suggests, the evidence will bear this out, and I'll be happy to support a just settlement in this case.
Councilmember Pulley, I'm going to have to cut you off because you're out of time. Okay? But thank you. All right, Councilmember Hurt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I stand on behalf of the Minority Caucus. The way that the caucus read the resolution states that urging basically means persuasion of expeditiously and persistently acting upon something. And what we are standing for is that type of action to take place, showing the compassion for something as tragic as this. The resolution itself is basically one that we believe is appropriate, considering the history that the Black community has experienced. There is no reason why the city of Nashville could not come together and act with compassion for this particular situation. The Minority Caucus voted unanimously to stand behind and support of this urgent matter. We have seen this happen across this city where there has been, I guess, I want to say it appropriately, that it's been not necessarily acknowledged. It has been not a priority. And we just want to urge Metro Law to take this in consideration. Thinking of this as if it were one of their own relatives. Thinking of this as someone that they loved and knew. There is a disparity, and it is no question about that. For one to stand and to resist just a mere request of moving forward to close this matter and settle this case. Likewise, any other case that may have come before them like this, I think is very appropriate and very timely. So as I stand on behalf of the Minority Caucus, asking that we support this resolution moving forward, asking Metro Law to do the same.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Porterfield.
Thank you so very much, Vice Chair. I stand in agreement with a few of the sentiments that Councilwoman Vercher expressed. It was very disappointing to see that it was not the will of the body to hear from people that came out to speak on today, but nevertheless, that was the will of the body. We are voted to represent people, and there are people that we represent are here today. So again, that is very frustrating and very disappointing. Nevertheless, here we are. The language that is in this particular resolution is not saying what the compromise will be, nor does it say what the settlement will be. It is urging that we handle this in an expeditious manner. And for the argument that this is being rushed, it's been almost a year and a half since the Waffle House shooting that occurred in April of 2018. So this is something that has been looming for the last year and a half. And lastly, I think something else that's very important is the idea of using GPS coordinates so that we can make sure that this type of tragedy does not happen again. While we cannot control a mass shooting, what we can do is put policy in place to make sure that when these emergencies happen, we are best protecting the citizens that we were all elected to protect. So I stand asking that you support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Mendez.
Thanks, Mr. Vice Mayor. So when we had this, the related bill at the end of last term that stated, I think, a specific dollar amount, I was definitely opposed to it, and I was one of the voices that spoke against it. Now, I mean, I guess I would like to direct legal. Just I want to make sure I understand the exchange with Councilman Pulley. Is it legal's position that a recital in a non-binding resolution from the legislative branch of government could somehow bind Metro in a piece of litigation? Is that your position?
Mr. Safley.
I did not say it would bind us. I said the wording that is used, such as fail to use available equipment, further on down in Section 2, adopt a policy that prevents 911 call takers from disregarding available GPS coordinates. That type of language coming from the legislative body could, and that's what I said, was could be construed as an admission by the government. That's to be determined if this matter goes to litigation, and it would be determined by the court.
Are there any known examples in your entire career where a recital and a non-binding resolution was deemed an admission by the metropolitan government?
I cannot point you to that, no.
Okay. So when there was commentary before about there being a dramatic legal impact from the recital and a non-binding resolution, I mean, you don't anticipate a dramatic impact, do you?
I cannot forecast what the plaintiffs will do in this.
All right. So would it help in the analysis with a judge later if there was a clear intent from the body that neither the recitals nor any part of the resolution were intended to bind the metropolitan government? Surely, I mean, the whole idea would be legislative intent, right?
Correct.
All right. So far, everybody in favor and opposed, and I'm saying it for posterity so the litigants can have it, if this passes, so far everybody who's spoken, both in favor and opposed, has made clear their intention that this not be binding on the metropolitan government, not be binding on a court. The whole point that this is a non-binding resolution is that it would be just that, non-binding. I'm sure if there's any of the 40 members of the council that intend to bind Metro in a lawsuit with this resolution, that they can press their button and speak about it now. But I was opposed to the previous version of this. I do think this is a sort of a terrible practice and wouldn't want us to get in the habit of it. But this was an extraordinary event, and we've heard multiple African American members of our body speak to what this means to the community more broadly, and in an extraordinary circumstance where there's been an effort to make it be non-binding, and I doubt that any council member is going to stand up and state any legislative intent to bind Metro permanently in a piece of litigation or otherwise. I mean, I don't mind people voting their conscience on this, of course, one way or the other, but I just don't want there to be the misapprehension that this is going to somehow screw Metro in the lawsuit. And with that, I would just voice my support for the resolution, Vice Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Glover.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I just want to ask a couple of questions of our Director Cooper, if I may. And so do you recall, because I think there are two of us that are on the floor right now that were with you prior to you going downstairs. You were up in the council with our office for 4 years prior to that. You were in the council office for how many years prior to that, please?
Started with council office in 2001.
Okay, so a number of years. Have we ever had this type of resolution, be it binding or non-binding, that's ever been put before the council with regards to a specified legal matter that is still active on discovery and all the other things that take place in these types of, I guess, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to speak as eloquently on it as others do, but have we ever gone down this path before with any binding or non-binding resolution?
Not to my recollection.
Okay, can you say with 100% certainty that if we in fact pass this, that it absolutely, binding or non-binding, absolutely would have no impact whatsoever on the law department, on a jury, on a judge, or anything else? I mean, could we have a 100% certainty that it will never, ever be brought into the conversation inside of the courtroom while this is going on?
I cannot say that with 100% certainty, no.
Okay. I don't think any of us ever want to see this occur again. In the same breath, I think that we have an obligation to all of Nashville. You know, obviously, I think everybody understands the severity of this. I don't want to see the family suffer anymore either. However, I'm not going to be able to support this because I think we are entering into a slippery slope area that could have unintended consequences. And the reason I asked you the question, Director Cooper, was because I wanted to know if we've ever done this before. And so therefore, we can speculate all we want, but at the end of the day, there is not a certainty that no matter what we do on this, if it passes, we don't know how it could possibly be used for or against the people. Is that a fair assessment of what I think I'm trying to say?
I think so. I think as Councilman Mendez said, there would be ample evidence from the meeting footage that it was not intended to be an admission or to bind the government. But I can't say what may or may not happen with the resolution going forward.
Okay. So I'm just going to remind everybody, Vice Mayor, what I said on the last resolution that we passed that was, quote, non-binding. Anytime we do these things, there's a purpose for it. Somebody has a purpose for it. And so therefore, when it's this serious, I think we owe to be able to have as much discussion as possible. And frankly, we've got a new law director that'll probably be coming in at our next meeting. I really would like to hear what that individual would have to say about it before we go forward, because I would really hate to tie somebody in a certain direction that's not even in the position yet. So with that, thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Hager.
You know, I've been practicing law for 33 years. I've handled several wrongful death cases in my practice, and I've tried a lot of them to finality. It's a very tragic event, but as a council, we have to look at it toward the law department. And I need to ask the legal department, Mr. Safely, there are other lawsuits pending involving this case with Waffle House. Am I right or wrong?
There is a lawsuit pending against Vanderbilt Hospital.
Okay. Are there other lawsuits involving this specific event, though, at the Waffle House?
Well, the one with Vanderbilt is certainly resulting from the Waffle House.
Okay. Do you know of the other lawsuits involving the gentleman that allowed the young man to have those guns, though?
It was my understanding that that had been settled.
That had been settled?
That's my understanding. I cannot say that's
Okay.
true or not.
And the particular lawsuit that y'all are handling at this point in time, is that a non-jury trial or a jury trial?
The one against us?
Yes.
I'm honestly not sure. I'm not handling the case. If Metro is the only defendant, it would be a non-jury.
That's correct. That's why I'm asking, are there other co-defendants involved? Because otherwise it would be a jury trial. Am I correct?
Correct.
All right, and it wouldn't be correct?
It certainly could be.
Right. That's the way I understand the law is written. If it's Metro and another co-defendant, it can be a jury trial, right?
Correct.
Okay. And y'all right now are just in a discovery stage. Is that correct?
That is correct as well.
Okay. My issue with this is that, you know, that's why we have separation of powers in the Constitution. We have the executive, we have the executive branch, we have the judicial branch, and we have our legislative branch. And they all work separate. That's the biggest problem I have with this particular resolution. And as I said, it's a very tragic event. But at the same time, I don't want to step into an area to let our legal department look at this, do their discovery, and do their job, and then they can make their recommendations after all that discovery is completed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Hager. Councilmember Roden.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I think all the attorneys have talked about this. I guess since I'm an attorney, I'll come and give my 2 cents as well. In my opinion, if we start doing this, every single council member here will start getting calls of a friend of theirs that they know that has a lawsuit. Can you help me? Can you do a resolution? Can you urge the council to settle this for us? We will have plaintiffs' attorneys lined up from the courthouse to I-440 wanting us to do this for them. This is not where you do legal matters. It's at the courthouse. This case was just filed in April. It's only been 6 months. For a wrongful death suit, that's no time at all. So we just had a former Attorney General of the state of Tennessee appointed. I think we should let him get into his seat, take a look at this, make a recommendation to us. I think what would be best for us is to delay this for just a couple weeks, let him look at it, and give us a recommendation. So with that, I would make a motion to defer this for 2 meetings.
All right, so there's a motion to defer for 2 meetings, properly seconded. Okay, so we're on a motion to defer for 2 meetings, which would be the second meeting in November. Okay, so I've got people in the queue, so I'm going to take hands. Anybody want to talk about the deferral motion? If so, raise your hand, because I've got too many people on the board. Councilmember Vercher.
I'm speaking on a deferral, Vice Mayor.
Just a deferral.
Okay. Would you give me the privilege of the family sent me a statement that they want to be read to the body since they was denied that opportunity?
You're on a deferral motion. You're not.
I'm asking the body to vote against a deferral. We don't need to belabor this anymore. There's been concern about plaintiffs coming to council members lined up. I reject that, okay? One, as council members, don't insult your other colleagues for that. And I don't want us muddying the water as it relates to all these other cases and all these other lawsuits. This resolution is simple, and we're making it more complicated than it has to be. This resolution is simply urging our Metro Department of Law, whatever that is, as I stated earlier, to resolve this expediently. This isn't telling them how to do it. This is just urging them to do it expediently. And to Councilman Glover's question, yes, we've done a resolution like this before. It was back in 2003 when we had, with the health care center on Patterson Street, killed 9 people and critically injured 20 others. So this resolution isn't unprecedented. as a body, we've done these type of resolutions before. We're making it more complicated than it needs to be. We're simply urging the Department of Law to show some compassion for this family, to show some compassion for this city. We've already endured a lot these last couple of years. I do not want this resolution lingering going into the holiday. This family needs an answer tonight. You can either vote it up, vote it down, like Councilman Mendez said. You can vote your conscience. But at the end of the day, this is just simply asking them to resolve this expediently. We don't need the continued delays. And it's not on us to dictate what's appropriate for a family to be grieving, what the time frame as it relates for it to be resolved or not. To Councilman Roten's remarks, I just ask, just as a body again, at some point we just have to convey to the community that the government will do right by them, and that we don't just follow that with words, but we follow that with action, and that's what this resolution does.
We're on the deferral motion. Councilmember Benedict.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I would urge this body to vote against a deferral. As the sponsor just commented, this is something that I don't believe we should drag out any further. I think we should be, I urge the council to be in support of this bill. This took place in one of the most diverse parts of our city, and I think it is not just symbolic. I think it shows a commitment by this body and our city to show the family that we support them, and that this again is just, we're urging the Department of Law to settle as soon as possible. This is not binding our Department of Law to do anything. So I think it's critical that we look at it in that way, and that we focus on this family who endured a tragedy that none of us could even imagine. And so again, I hope that this body tonight will not defer this, and that we'll go ahead and do an up or a down vote. If we do that, then I'll speak to that next, I guess. Or could I say go ahead?
No, you can't.
Okay,
You can't
just
talk on the
defer.
resolution.
Okay.
You can only talk on the deferral motion.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the deferral motion? Seeing none, we'll try this by voice vote. We're on a deferral motion for 2 meetings. All in favor of the deferred motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Okay, so the deferral motion fails. We're on the resolution. All right, so back we go. Councilmember Benedict, you're actually in the queue.
All right. So thank you, Vice Mayor. So going back to, I think this is more than symbolic. This is about helping the family, giving them a little bit of relief while they continue through the lawsuits that they have going on. And this is about this body, again, recognizing that this is a tragedy and that we do have opportunities to improve. It's not about binding us to any of those opportunities directly, but it does, again, more than symbolize, but at a minimum, it symbolizes to the family that we are behind them. We know that we have issues that need to be addressed as a city, and especially when you're looking at, I'll go back to one of the most diverse areas of our city. I want to make sure that people of color in this city feel like we are all representing them equally. This is the most diverse council we have ever had, and I think that speaks to that we need to use that to show the community, the city of Nashville, the county, Davidson County, that we are with you. We are all one, and we appreciate the diversity of this city, and we want to make sure that everyone is protected under the law, and that we, and I just urge that we vote in favor of this. Gosh, this is my first time really talking.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Young, you're recognized.
Previous question.
Call for the previous question. So on the previous question, we're not voting on the resolution. We're voting on the previous question, which means you're ready to. Councilmember Nash, you're recognized.
If you had a request to speak in before the.
No. The previous question overrides everything. So we're on the previous question. If you want to vote now, then you vote yes on the previous question. If you don't want to vote and you want to keep talking, you vote no. All those in favor of the previous question say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Previous question prevails. Okay, so I think we're going to have to go on the board. We're on Resolution RS 2019-30 by Councilmember Vercher. I'm going to clear the queue. Madam Clerk, are you ready? We are voting. If you're for it, you vote aye. If you're against it, you vote no. Madam Clerk, open up the machines. Everybody voted? Madam Clerk, close the machines, take the vote.
25 in favor, 13 against, 1 abstention.
Resolution passes. RS 2019-30 passes. Okay, so we're now back on the calendar. Back on resolutions, we are on RS 2019-42 by Council Members Mendes, O'Connell, and Allen. Resolution approving a grant agreement of the Homelessness Management Information System grant between the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency to the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Social Services Department, Homelessness Commission to contribute to the national effort to end homelessness. Councilmember Mendes, you're recognized. Here you go.
The committee report from Budget and Finance is approve 11 for, 0 against, and I guess there's one other committee report to get.
Councilmember Hurt, Health and Hospitals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We in Health and Hospitals and Social Services need to ask, we voted unanimously to suspend the rules. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because the grant money goes directly to social services. But as the resolution states, that it is between the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency to Metro Social Services. So we'd like to suspend the rules and ask that the MDHA be removed.
All right, so Councilmember Hurt is asking for suspension of the rules. I'm going to go back. So do we actually have an amendment drafted, or you're asking to suspend the rules to try to get it taken care of tonight?
I'm asking that we suspend the rules tonight and get this taken care of. We had someone from Social Services to come, and she indicated that they directly received the grant funding. I'm not sure why MDHA was listed as the pass-through.
Councilman Mendes, obviously we don't typically amend without a written amendment. We've done it before. I guess I'm asking Councilmember Mendes, is this something you know of that has to be moved right away, or can we defer in order to make sure we get the amendment drafted correctly?
I don't have any idea, and it looks like we don't have the department here. It would be does anybody at the administration table have any idea? So apparently, Vice Mayor, nobody knows of any urgency. So it would be my preference that we deferred and do the amendment in the ordinary course.
Councilmember Hurt, is that okay? That way we get the thing drafted correctly and we get it properly before the body.
I think that's fine.
Is that okay? So the motion would be to defer one meeting?
Right, move to defer one meeting.
Okay, so we've got a motion to defer one meeting, properly seconded. Any discussion on, Councilmember Glover?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just very quickly, and I'm just going to ask a what-if question. If it is something that needs to be dealt with today, and because we are deferring it, I'm fine with the deferral because I think we're literally looking at scratching MDHA is what we did, and we went to the Rules Committee this afternoon and expressed what we were wanting to accomplish. And so we gave the reasoning for it. I don't mind supporting a deferral. I'm just wanting to make sure that we haven't jumped in and we've created an obstacle. So is there no one that has any knowledge on this that can give us an idea?
Councilmember Porterfield?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. In the committee meeting today, they did speak on, they did ask that we do not delay this. A deferral would then result in a delay of them getting their funding, so they did ask that we do not delay, since this is simply scratching MDHA due to a typo, so it is only removing that one word.
Hold on just a minute. All right, so the problem is this is going to require apparently a change in the caption, so it actually does require some work.
Okay.
So let me put it this way. Based upon the way we proceed, and I'll ask Mr. Cooper to chime in, trying to amend things on the floor is very, very dangerous and difficult. That's why we make sure that we have written amendments. If things are that important from the department, I would encourage them to stay through the council meeting. It's only 8:30 to make sure that things are done right now. So we're checking.
Move it to the Hill. I'll read the agreement real quick and see if we can substitute it.
Okay. All right. So let me make 2 points. So Mr. Cooper has said if we can move it to the Hill, he'll take a look at the agreement and see if we can make a change. But there's a second part to this. This council is going to run effectively. It's going to run properly. I would say if departments are that concerned about measures, and this regards homelessness, which is very, very important, then they need to stay. They need to show up, and they need to stay until this thing gets resolved in case there's a problem. Were they, now here I am asking questions, want to know, were they in the committee today?
Yes, and they were also here at the Rules Committee.
Okay.
And so, I mean, they did meet that obligation. As far as what was happening beforehand, I don't know.
Okay. But you all amended in the committee.
Right.
So we have to amend on the floor. I'm saying that from now on, departments really should, if we're going to have to do that, they should do
I
that.
won't disagree with you.
So, so what I would entertain is Councilmember Mendes, I would ask if you would just move the bill to the Hill, then we'll ask Mr. Cooper to take a look and see if we can do it on the floor.
I'll do that after one brief comment. In just looking at it real quick, in addition to the caption, it mentions MDHA in at least one recital and both sections. So if we're going to do an amendment, it's going to have to be sort of a detailed, clear, spoken, taking MDHA out of 3 or 4 places.
Okay.
So with that, I'll move this to the Hill.
Any objection to moving it to the Hill, see if we can take care of it tonight? Seeing none. Okay, so we'll move that bill to the Hill. We'll come to it at the end of the calendar. We'll move on. Resolution RS 2019-44 by Councilmember Murphy. Resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement by and between the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Department of Public Works, for a general maintenance agreement for Smart Corridor Phase 2, I-24 from I-440 to State Route 10 in Murfreesboro, State Route 1 from I-24 to State Route 10 in Murfreesboro, and various connector routes 1A and several project numbers. Councilmember Murphy, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like committee reports, and one from myself is to defer this one meeting.
All right, so Planning and Zoning, give me the report again.
Planning, Zoning, and Historical voted to defer one meeting.
Okay, voted to defer one meeting. Public Works, I've got Councilmember Henderson. You're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Public Works Committee also moved to defer one meeting, 9 in favor, 0 against.
All right, and I'm going to go to Councilmember O'Connell. You had a point of order, and you may have the traffic and parking report, so you get both things.
Look at this. I'm going to try to do both at once to keep us efficient. This is actually a point of information, I guess. It might, and this is back on the previous item, I think it might be beneficial if maybe you and or the council office could draft something for departments to advise on legislative process, because I think there might have been some folks that thought being at the committee was sufficient, so I think that'd be worthwhile.
Got it, good point. Committee report.
Committee reports, I'm taking over from Councilmember Hager, who was serving as ad hoc chair of Traffic, Parking, and Transportation, but gave me the report to give. Prior to, I think, awareness of committee members that this would be deferred in other committees, this committee did pass this, voting 4 in favor, 0 against for recommendation.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Murphy, back to you.
Thank you. So the reason for the deferral is that TDOT has sent over the project number, I guess, was incomplete or has changed. And so with that, what is probably best is to defer this and do I need to re-refer to traffic so they can so they can deliberate on the amendment, or is the other committee sufficient to deliberate on the amendment?
That's up to you, but Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized. You want to come back to you?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to have it re-referred to traffic and parking. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilmember Glover.
Just very quickly, can somebody help me remember Rule 24, and if that's still in place? If a committee has moved to defer one meeting, doesn't it automatically get deferred?
Yeah, it's going to be deferred. We're just trying to figure out whether to re-refer it.
Okay, all right.
Correct. Councilmember Murphy, you're deferring
So
this. Yeah.
as the motion was stated, it was that we are going to defer this, but also re-refer it to the committee that did not have a chance to hear the explanation and vote on the amendment that will be coming. So the full motion was to defer this one meeting and re-refer it to traffic and parking so they too can have a say on changing a project number in the bill.
Right, and I can't do a point of information.
Councilmember O'Connell, you're
Sorry,
recognized.
thank you. I had another point of information, but I can't press it because my mic was
And let me
still
get you
live.
to stand up.
Okay, yeah. Because it was a point of information, I wasn't sure. But anyway, this is to Councilmember Glover's point. Because we had not had that advisory in traffic, parking, and transportation, we actually considered it as a committee, which is the reason for the re-referral. By the time it got to Public Works, for instance, we knew to defer, and so it will come back to us on second. It would not automatically have come back to traffic, parking, and transportation.
All right. Back to you, Councilmember Murphy, for a motion to defer.
Thank you. So thank you, Councilman O'Connell, for further clarifying that this needs to be deferred and re-referred to traffic and parking is the correct motion and the motion that was on the floor. Thank you.
All right, so it's a motion to defer. It's one meeting, and it goes back to traffic and parking on a re-referral. Properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. All right. So now we're on, all right, so that takes us through all the resolutions with the exception of the one, which is now at the hill of the complete calendar. We're now on bills on introduction and first reading. If it's okay, we'll take them all together. Anything need to be bumped? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve on first reading? Got a motion to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of all bills on first reading say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. We're now on bills on second reading. BL 2019-1 by Councilmember Sledge. An ordinance to amend sections 1.01.030 and 12.08.170 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws relative to parking fines. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Committee reports, Budget and Finance. Councilmember Mendes.
Budget and Finance approved both the an amendment and the bill as amended, 11 in favor, 0 against.
Traffic and Parking. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. This one was also considered by our committee as amended and recommended 6 in favor, 0 against.
All right, Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval with explanation.
All right, Councilmember moves for approval, properly seconded. Back to you.
Thank you. So as we've discussed in committees and throughout the last few weeks, this legislation would move the standard parking meter violation fine from $11 to $25. So a few questions that we fielded in committee that I think are pertinent. One, why go from 11 to 25? Why that number? Well, as some folks will recall, during the discussion we've had about how do we modernize parking in the city, that was one of the recommendations, was that very number, moving from 11 to 25. We can go higher. We talked about that in budget. I've had several colleagues suggest and ask that we go higher. To that I say, I'm with you, but I did feel like it was better to do a number that had been publicly discussed in some way and to take what I think is the first of several steps to really actually modernize, without privatizing, but modernize our parking meter situation. There's another question that a lot of you have asked that this bill does not address, but I'd like to, or doesn't address directly, but is a step. So we talked about enforcement. People have asked, say, if you move from $11 to $25, what does that mean about enforcement? Well, there's a photo that one of our traffic enforcement officers actually provided to me that I think the staff's going to work to get up on the screen so you can see. There are going to be people, regardless, if you can see right there, that is the inside of somebody's car. And sitting on that passenger seat are probably about 12 parking tickets. This happens time and again downtown. The enforcement officer I spoke with who took this photo mentioned that he can literally tell you the top 25 people who are violators. He showed me one car that I didn't put up here because it shows the license plate, that it stays parked on James Robertson Parkway 7 days a week in a meter. So you might ask, what are we doing about this? Well, can't we do something more, like boot or tow those cars? Well, I asked that very same question. And when I asked, because our code currently provides for a car to be booted if it receives a certain number of tickets, know how many boots that our traffic enforcement officers have access to? 0. 0. How many traffic enforcement officers who have 0 boots do we have in the county? We have 5. We used to have 4, and thanks to good work of Councilmember Allen, we got another one into the budget. All that to say is this is the first step. There are many more steps to go, and the very encouraging thing I've gotten, despite these very depressing photos, is that everybody seems to be willing to work on this. Traffic enforcement is ready to work on this. Multiple members of this council have said they are ready to work on this, and I believe that we can be doing more. This does not have a fiscal note. I would expect there to be some positive fiscal impact on it. If we were to simply take the math and say everybody who paid an $11 fine pays a $25 fine, you're looking at somewhere to the tune of $750,000 to $1 million more. And the numbers have been cited to me to start modernizing our parking meters, meaning you could pay with a mobile app or pay with a credit card that you stick right into the meter, $1.2 million. So we can do this. The mayor spoke to us earlier this evening about the council being the council to get things done. I didn't intend for this to be the first bill, 2019-1, but I think it's a good example of a way that we can get things done. I'd ask for my colleagues' support.
Councilmember Sledge, 2 questions real quick. One is that Councilmember Murphy's car? That's what it looked like. Okay. The second one is there's an amendment. We have an amendment in the packet. Do you need to do that? Okay. Councilmember Sledge.
So the amendment, which I will first make a motion for the amendment.
Okay, motion to, so there's an amendment in your packet. Councilmember Sledge has moved the amendment, properly seconded. Back to you for an explanation.
So the amendment simply moves the enactment date to December 1st, 2019. This was a request on behalf of Circuit Court Clerk Ricky Rooker, who you have a letter on your desk, whose office supports this measure and asks that the enforcement date move to December 1st, 1, so everybody has good public notice about the changes that could possibly occur, and 2, they've got just about that many months worth left of tickets before they're about to make a big new order that will then reflect the new fine amount.
Okay, so Councilmember Sledge has moved the amendment, properly seconded. Councilmember O'Connell on the amendment? Okay, go back to that. All right, so any other questions on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Now you're on your bill as amended. Back to you, Councilmember Sledge.
I would renew my motion.
Okay, Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very grateful that Councilmember Sledge has taken this and that it is the first bill of this term. A few things are true. One, regardless of the approach that was initially pursued, it is clear that Nashville does need to pursue an approach to parking modernization, and I have maintained for quite some time that we can do this. And I think to Councilmember Sledge's point, this is the first step of many. I think over the next few years, this is work that I hope gets done specifically in the Traffic, Parking, and Transportation Committee in conjunction with some of the work that will be happening in both Public Works as well as Planning, Zoning, and Historical, and I strongly encourage colleagues to adopt this bill.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Nobody else in the queue? Councilmember Sledge, any other comments? Okay, motion is to approve on second reading Bill 2019-1 as amended. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Thank you, Councilmember Sledge. We're now on BL 2019-2 by Councilmember Sledge. Ordinance amending Section 2.212.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to modify valuation limits for the Blighted Property Grant Program. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Mendez, Budget and Finance.
Budget and Finance approved 11-4, 0 against.
All right, back to you, Councilmember Sledge.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I would move approval with a brief comment.
Okay. Got a motion to approve, properly second. Back to you.
So we had a good conversation in Budget and Finance Committee about this program. So there are two main ways that Metro government supports small businesses regarding our Small Business Incentive Program. One is that we offer a grant to high-growth businesses that are paying essentially what I'm going to call a living wage. They get a grant per job. The second is this, and this bill addresses the incentive program. Currently, if you are in what's considered a blighted area, which is defined as the census tract with a certain AMI, basically the majority of residents make between 60 and 85% of area median income, and you are a small business owner who is renovating a commercial space, you could potentially qualify for a grant through Metro regarding the exterior improvements that you make. Okay? So if you make those exterior improvements, you have to make a minimum investment of $10,000, and there's a grant that will give you up to 50% of your investment if you have a minimum of $10,000. The maximum grant cap is $50,000 that Metro would give. This is obviously to incentivize businesses to go into areas that need some economic revitalization and to put down roots in those areas, and it's a way that we, to kind of sort of encourage some adaptive reuse of existing buildings. Problem that we're running into is that a lot of our small businesses are going into multi-tenant commercial spaces. There is a valuation cap on the building of $1 million. So if you are a small business and you go in to take a space in a large multi-tenant commercial facility and the facility is worth, say, $2 million, you cannot qualify because the way that our current program is written, it is the total value, not prorated. This bill would prorate that value and then clarify that you don't necessarily have to own the building. In other words, you can be a tenant. So what could that mean? If you're in that $2 million building like we talked about, and you're a small business that's taking up 20% of that space, well, your value is prorated now, and that space is valued at $400,000, bringing you under the cap, meaning that you could qualify if you make the right amount of exterior improvements. Cases like this can go from, if you've got a large sort of dead mall you're trying to revive or dead strip mall to a large warehouse where somebody's going in and doing improvements to a certain piece of it. What I'm trying to do is make sure that we've got more small businesses that can qualify for the current incentives program. Now, we put a line item in the budget for the small business incentive program. I had our finance department check. They say that there's $150,000 for FY20. This does not change that amount one bit. Doesn't change any of the other documentation requirements of the maximum grant, of the fact that you still have to be in these designated census tracts. What it really does is it opens it up for more small businesses who are making investments in the very areas we have said we want to see investment to have the opportunity to receive that support from Metro. So I apologize for the long-winded explanation, colleagues, but with that, I would ask for your support.
All right, so I got a motion to approve on BL 2019-2. It's been properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we're on second reading. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. BL 2019-4 by Councilmember Sledge. Ordinance amending Chapter 6.04 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to prohibit aerial advertising. Councilmember Sledge.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Public Works, Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Do I need to give you the votes on every particular amendment, or just that we deferred as amended?
You can give us all.
Alrighty.
I think we're all excited. Go ahead and do that.
The Public Works Committee recommended Amendment 1, 9 in favor, 0 against. Amendment 2, 9 in favor, 0 against. And then recommended a one-meeting deferral as amended, also 9 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Sledge, you've got codes.
Yes, so we, in codes, we also voted Amendment A 9-0, Amendment B 9-0, and then deferred as amended one meeting at the request of the sponsor being me, 9-0.
All right, so you're moving
I'm going
Okay,
to move the amendments.
You want to move the amendments and then defer?
Yes,
Okay,
so I would
let's go through the first amendment. Go ahead and move the amendment.
I would move Amendment A.
Okay, I've got a motion to move Amendment A, properly seconded. Back to you for an explanation.
Thank you. And members, I do want to discuss this in full in committees and on the floor in 3 weeks. But all Amendment A does is it fixes a typo and it puts in 2 whereas clauses, one of which explains some rationale for the legislation, and the second I think it's left over from last time, and the second which gives some federal court case precedent for why we would have jurisdiction in this matter. So with that, I would move the amendment.
All right.
Renew my motion.
Okay, so I got a motion on Amendment A. It's been properly seconded. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I just want to thank the Councilmember Sledge for adding the recitals, because I had wondered why we needed to do this. And if I could just ask, is this a problem? And I mean, you've explained kind of distraction, which I appreciate, and some other stuff, but if you could elaborate a little bit more on why this is a problem and why we should prohibit it, that'd be helpful.
Sure. So as you can see in the first whereas clause in Amendment A, it talks about distractions, unwanted noise from low-flying planes, and harm of aesthetic. There is an issue going on where we're hosting a lot of events in town, and some of those events attract a certain type of aerial advertisement, which includes a low-flying, low-powered plane that doesn't just stick to downtown or hangs out on Lower Broad. It goes around our entire urban core and goes around several of our neighborhoods, and it doesn't typically limit its hours to the time of the event, because the plane's got to get in the air and the plane's got to be flying around. And so the circumstance you get, as I have experienced, is 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, where multiple of this particular type of aerial advertisement are present. So,
Councilmember Allen, anything else? Okay. Anybody else in the queue on the amendment? We're on Amendment A, again properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment A is adopted. You're on Amendment B. Councilmember Sledge.
thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I move Amendment B.
Okay. Motion on B, properly seconded. Back to you for an explanation.
Yes, so this is clarifying legislation to just further clarify what type of aircraft this does and does not apply to. Specifically, this amendment clarifies what it does not apply to. So,
all right, thank you, Councilmember. Okay, so you've heard the explanation of the amendment. Councilmember Mendez, you're recognized.
I guess I could just read the amendment, but so what's the change? I guess at the end of the day, I'm interested in knowing what the change is, and also I'm just a little bit curious in the long run whether this would outlaw blimps from tire companies and.
Oh, Councilman Mendez. Why, that's what Amendment B does. It ensures in part that the type of use that you just described would not fall into this legislation.
Okay.
Councilmember Mendez.
And I guess the only other question is, has our large tourism industry been consulted about what impact this might or might not have on getting large events in town?
Councilmember Sledge.
Our large tourism industry has not weighed in on this, has contacted me on other issues, but has not contacted me on this. By reason for full deferral, just so everybody knows, is our large airport authority has asked for a little bit more time to find out if any of these aerial advertisements are on the properties within the airport authority.
All right, Councilmember O'Connell. We're on Amendment B.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wondered if, having seen the advent of something along the lines of personalized hovering scooter-type devices, if someone were to strap a sign to themselves and fly forward, would this bill cover that?
Councilmember Van Rees. Do you really want an answer to that? Councilmember Van Rees.
As Vice Chair of the Conventions and Visitors Committee, I would like this to be re-referred to our committee for comment when it comes back around, please.
Okay. So we're on Amendment B, and he can make that on the full.
With the, I would like the amendment to also come back to
All right. Let's see if we can get the Amendment B on there. We're on Amendment B. Anybody else in the queue? Anybody else have questions? Seeing none, we're on Amendment B. The motion is to approve. All those in favor of Amendment B say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Okay, Councilmember Sledge, you're on your bill on second reading as amended by Amendment A and B.
So what the motion I will make, and I'll make sure I try to get everybody's Desires Incorporated. I will defer one.
Hold on. Sorry.
I'll request a deferral of one meeting and a referral to the Convention and Tourism Committee.
Okay. So the motion is to defer BL 2019-4 as amended by Amendment A and B, one meeting with the re-referral back to the Convention and Bureau.
Well, it would go to it for the first time, yes, to refer to that.
So
and then
refer
it's
it back over there.
naturally going to be re-referred to
Okay.
codes and
That's the
public works.
motion, properly seconded. Any discussion? You sure you don't want to talk about these jetpacks flying around with these things on it? Okay.
We've all seen The Rocketeer.
All right, we've seen the Rocketeer. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The bill is deferred and then referred to Convention and Visitors. Bill 2019-5 by Councilmember Henderson. Ordinance to amend Section 13.08.025 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws relative to honorary street signs. Councilmember Henderson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is a housekeeping matter, just adding one word, calendar year, to the existing code. And the Public Works Committee recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against. And with that, I would move its approval, please.
All right, it's got a motion to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Bill 2019-9 by Councilmember Mendes, approved by the Planning Commission. Ordinance approving a lease agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and the Metropolitan Nashville Airport Authority for certain real property located at Nashville International Airport in Davidson County, commonly known as the Luton Center. Councilmember Mendes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance approved this, 11 favor, 0 against. I think there's another committee report.
Councilmember Murphy, Planning and Zoning.
10 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Councilmember Mendes.
Move approval.
Got a motion to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Bill 2019-10 by Councilmembers Mendes, Gamble, and Vercher. Ordinance approving a contract bond between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by through the Mayor's Office and the United Way of Metropolitan Nashville to provide one-on-one financial counseling and other financial education activities at no charge to low-income residents in accordance with the Financial Empowerment Center program model. Councilmember Mendes, you're recognized.
Budget and Finance approved, 11 favor, 0 against. And with that, I'd move approval for second reading.
Got a motion to approve on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Bill 2019-12, Mendes, Hager, and others. Ordinance approving a lease agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County through the Parks Board and Recreation, the Board of Parks and Recreation, and the Sports Authority of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County for a community ice hockey and skating recreation complex located at 1 Bellevue Place. Councilmember Mendes, you're recognized.
Budget and Finance recommended deferring for one meeting, 11 for, 0 against, and requests the other committee report.
Councilmember Murphy, Planning and Zoning.
So that deferral was not, we were not aware of that. And so we approved 10 in favor, 0 against. And I guess I'm kind of at the will of the body if we want to re-refer, since budget did. If the committee, if the sponsor wants to re-refer to us as well, I will not oppose that.
All right, and we've got one other committee report, that's Parks, and Chairman Hager is out. Anybody knows what Parks did on this one? All right, so we do have one committee report in, so I think we can move. Councilmember Mendes?
Well, I'd like to move to defer one meeting with a re-referral to all committees with a brief explanation.
All right, so that's the motion, is to defer one meeting with a re-referral back to all the committees. Properly seconded. Back to you.
So there was a relatively lengthy discussion in Budget and Finance about this, and just for the benefit of the other committees, so this is potentially as long as a 75-year lease where the compensation is $10 a year, so $750 over 75 years. And when we were getting into the details about who's going to pay the utilities and who was going to benefit from the concessions agreement, it was clear that there was a management agreement mentioned between the Sports Authority and the predators, and that's not set forth in the resolution, the bill, or in our analysis. And so, in summary, what the Budget and Finance Committee was looking for was a more robust explanation of the set of agreements related to the ice rink and how this lease that is before us fits into the big picture. And I would also say that Budget and Finance, a bunch of committee members had questions, and what we agreed on there was that everybody would send their questions to Ms. Zeitlin by the end of Thursday, and I would, as Budget and Finance Committee Chair, coordinate those and get answers for everybody in advance of the next meeting. With that, Vice Mayor, I'd renew my motion to defer with one meeting with the re-referrals.
Okay, you've heard the motion. It's been properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Bill 2019-13 by Council Members Hurt and Pulley, ordinance approving an agreement between the Nashville Fire Department and Vanderbilt University Medical Center for the clinical training of Vanderbilt residents. Council Member Hurt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Health, Hospitals, and Social Services Committee voted to approve Bill 2019-13, 6-4 and 0 against.
All right, and I've got a Public Safety Committee report. Council Member Pulley.
Public Safety, recommended approval, 6 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Council Member Hurt.
I move for approval.
Move for approval, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Thank you, Councilmember Hurt. Bill 2019-14 by Councilmembers Van Reese and Henderson. Ordinance to amend the Geographic Information System Street and Alley Center Line Layer for the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by changing the name of 4th Street to Creative Way. Councilmember Van Reese, you're recognized.
Committee reports, please.
All right, I've got a bunch of them. Planning and Zoning. Councilmember Murphy, you're recognized.
10 in favor, 0 against.
Public Works. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Public Works Committee recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against.
Traffic and Parking. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Traffic and Parking recommended in favor, 6-4-0 against.
All right, and Councilmember Van Reese, it's also been referred to the ECD Board. Do you know how they, what action they took? They meet in 2 days? Okay, so we'll pick this one up on third reading, so it's fine to proceed, all right?
Okay, I'm not sure.
It'll come up on the third reading, and we'll get the report then.
Okay,
so
I'm
it's
not
okay
sure
to
why it was, but that's first I've been notified.
That's okay.
This is simply a name change in of a road so that it is the same name of the road on the east and west side of Briarville at Ellington Parkway. And with that, I request your approval.
Okay, there's a motion to approve on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Bill 2019-15 by Councilmember Hurt and O'Connell. Ordinance providing the honorary street name designation of Reverend James C. Turner Way for a portion of Hawkins Street. Councilmember Hurt, you're recognized.
Yes, committee report, please.
Public Works. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Public Works Committee recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Hurt, back to you.
Yes, I'd just like to recognize Reverend James C. Turner, who was the senior pastor at New Hope Baptist Church, very active in the civil rights movement, did a lot for the South Nashville community and all of the Black Nashville. And we are very proud to name a portion of Hawkins Street after him as an honorary designation. His son, James Turner II, is now the pastor of the church, and I think this is a very befitting honor for that family. And with that, I ask to move for your approval.
All right, thank you. Got a motion to approve, properly seconded. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to thank Councilmember Hurt for working on this. I know Pastor Turner well, and the place and prominence of this congregation in the Edge Hill community. I think this will be of lasting value to that community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the queue? Seeing none, I got a motion to approve on second reading. Okay, now I see it. Councilmember Murphy.
I'm sorry. So last term when we had street renamings and things, I remember one of them went through the Rules Committee, and then like we've got Creative Way that went through planning. And I just wanted to seek some clarification because it looks like this one just went through Public Works. I'm not trying to slow this down. I just wanted to clarify. I feel like we've done like 3 different processes here on roads and whatnot. I think one was a bridge, so maybe that was different.
Okay.
One was.
All right, Councilmember Murphy, we've got a question. Councilmember Sledge, is that the same question? Okay. So I'm going to defer to Mr. Cooper, who can explain what's going on here.
I'm going back 4 years, but my recollection is that because it is just an honorary name change where it doesn't actually change the name of the street, that it just goes to Public Works Committee.
Okay, okay. All right.
It's not
that works. I just want to know for like future reference.
Under the charter, it's not a mandatory referral, so
Okay.
it doesn't go to planning for their recommendation.
Okay, I'll take your word. You're our new attorney.
I'm pretty sure I'm right on that one.
Well, that too.
This is only on second reading. Councilmember Murphy, I think that your car with all the tickets is parked on this location of this street. Okay. All right. So we're back to the motion to approve. It's been properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
You know, I would just like to say,
Oh, okay.
we've done this before, and it doesn't change the name of the street. All they do is just add a nameplate that says Honorary James C. Turner Way.
Okay.
It doesn't change the name of the street.
We got it. We're back on the bill on second reading. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. Thank you, Councilmember Hurt. BL 2019-16 by Councilmember Henderson. Ordinance to amend the Geographic Information System Street and Alley Centerline layer for the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by abandoning an unnumbered alley right-of-way and easement. Councilmember Henderson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Okay, got Planning and Zoning. Councilmember Murphy.
All in favor, 10 and nothing. Nope, just kidding. 12 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you. Traffic and Parking, Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Despite being bothered by the lack of number, the Traffic, Parking, and Transportation Committee voted 6 in favor, 0 against.
All right, Councilmember Henderson, you're recognized.
The Public Works Committee recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against. And with all those committee reports, I would move approval, please.
Okay, we're on second reading, BL 2019-16. The motion is for approval on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. We're on the last page of the calendar, BL 2019-17 by Councilmember Henderson. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon an existing sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole, and easements for 3 properties located at 1307 McGavick Pike, 2300 and 2302 Riverside Drive. Councilmember Henderson, you're recognized.
Committee reports, please.
Okay, Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Murphy.
12 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Henderson, Public Works.
Public Works recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against. And with all committee reports in, I would recommend, or rather move approval.
Okay, got a motion to pass on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. BL 2019-18 by Councilmembers Murphy and Henderson. An ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to negotiate and accept permanent and temporary easements for the West in Place Stormwater Improvement Project for 22 properties located on Bowling Avenue, Central Avenue, Greenway Avenue, and West in Place. Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you. Committee reports, 12 in favor, 0 against from planning.
Thank you. And Public Works, Councilmember Henderson.
We recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against.
All right, Councilmember Murphy, back
With
to
that,
you.
I'd like to move approval.
Got a motion to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. BL 2019-19 by Councilmember Henderson. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to negotiate and accept permanent and temporary easement for the Tusculum Road Stormwater Improvement Project for 13 properties located on Old Tusculum Road and Tusculum Road. Councilmember Henderson, you're recognized.
Committee reports, please.
Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Murphy.
12 in favor, 0 against.
Public Works, Councilmember Henderson.
Public Works recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against.
Right. Motion to approve on second reading?
Yes, please. I move approval.
All right. Motion to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. BL 2019-20 by Councilmembers Parker and Henderson. Approved by the Planning Commission. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing sanitary sewer easement rights for property located at 110 North 1st Street. Councilmember Parker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Okay, Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Murphy.
12 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Henderson, Public Works.
Public Works recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Parker, back to you.
Move to approve.
Got a motion to approve on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt on second reading. BL 2019-21 by Councilmember Henderson, approved by the Planning Commission. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Madison County to abandon existing sanitary sewer main and easements to accept new sanitary sewer manholes and easements for property located at 3964 Woodlawn Drive. Councilmember Henderson, you're recognized.
Committee reports, please.
Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Murphy.
12 in favor, 0 against.
Public Works, Councilmember Henderson.
9 in favor, 0 against.
All right, and a motion to approve?
Yes, sir, I would move approval.
All right, it's a motion to approve on second reading, Bill 2019-21. Motion is to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. We've got one matter at the heel of the calendar. Let's go back. This is, it's Resolution RS 2019-42 by Council Members Mendes, O'Connell, and Allen. Let me reread the caption of the bill. Resolution approving a grant agreement of the Homeless Management Information System. That's the HMIS system. It's a grant between the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency, acting by and through Metropolitan Social Services Homelessness Commission to contribute to the national effort to end homelessness. All right, so what I'm going to do is go to Mr. Cooper. If you remember, what we were trying to do was figure out if we could amend this on the at second reading without the written thing. If we needed to, Councilmember Cooper, Mr. Cooper, you're recognized.
So the grant agreement itself is between HUD and social services. So regardless, that's where the money is going. The resolution references that there was a transfer of the grant from MDHA to social services. My suggestion, we received confirmation that this is time sensitive, that HUD actually extended the deadline for 2 weeks in order for the council to act on this. I think the council should go ahead and pass it as is, and then if they need to do a follow-up resolution taking out some of the MDHA stuff, then we can do that. But I think it's fine as is tonight.
Councilmember Mendes, you're recognized.
So to get it on the floor, I'll move it in its original form for approval.
All right, so motion is to approve, properly seconded. Councilmember Glover.
All right, so Director Cooper, let me just make sure that given the time-sensitive nature of this, we're passing it tonight. It's not going to create any problems that if there is word smithing on this that needs to occur, we could do it, and it will not hold up anything. And so you're comfortable as far as that advice to us as a body, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, Mr. Jamison, I know everything kind of got changed on positions tonight. Is the administration, do they feel like it's okay there too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right, so we've got a motion to approve this resolution, RS 2019-42, properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt resolution RS 2019-42. Believe that's all. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn, properly seconded. We stand adjourned.
Doesn't do what the actual grant agreement does.
And so the council has concluded about a 2.5-hour business meeting tonight. That's a little longer than our first session a couple of weeks ago. They once again heard from Mayor John Cooper tonight. He spoke again to continue to build relationships with the new council, saying he wants his council to be the council that gets things done. In that regard, he also announced to them that he'll be sending the nomination of former State Attorney General Bob Cooper to be the new legal director for him. That's subject to council confirmation. The council tonight did confirm the mayor's appointment of Kevin Crumbo to be his finance director. Finance director is perhaps the most important city department head position. It is the only one position that the mayor can hire or fire the person, he or she, at their discretion. All the others usually take some other kind of action, in many cases through civil service. There were a lot of other appointments made by the mayor tonight, and one of the things the mayor did mention before we forget this, the mayor did indicate that he'll be sending to the council some changes and increases in water sewer rates. The state has come in and said that the city is way out in arrears in the red about its water sewer program and needs to have an increase. Exactly what that increase is going to be, the mayor said he might not know that till the end of the week. It'll probably be before this council in the next term, in the next meeting, which is November 5th. In the meantime, they'll be putting that together. This is a long history of council approvals of this. That'll have to be done by ordinance. It'll take 3 readings. The state wants this in effect by the end of the year, so there'll need to be three readings on that. They have barely enough meetings between now and the end of the year to get that done. Council approved a number of other appointments tonight, including their president pro tempore. That's the person who would take Vice Mayor Jim Shulman's place. He has to take a break if he's sick or if he has to, for some reason, can no longer serve. That became important in the last term when Vice Mayor David Briley became mayor when Megan Barry resigned. So nobody's expecting that to happen again, but the appointment tonight was made of Jeff Syracuse, a second-term council member from the Donaldson area. It was thought that Tanaka Verscher's name would be in nomination tonight as well, but that was not placed in nomination. So Councilman Syracuse was elected without opposition. Kathleen Murphy did wind up having opposition to, briefly, for the Planning and Zoning meeting, heading that committee and also being a member of the Planning Commission. She defeated Steve Glover, who was a late candidate for that, 37-3. Freddie O'Connell was named to the council's position on the Traffic and Parking Commission. He will also head the council's Traffic and Parking Committee. There are other things the council is going to be voting on November 5th to put people on the Industrial Development Board and also to deal with the Community Education Commission. They'll also have the opportunity to vote on November 5th for appointment to the school board. This is the first time the council will be filling a vacancy on that. That's required by state law, and the charter was changed by Metro voters to allow that to happen. There are 4 nominees for that one position. It's the position it's just now been vacated, and it's one that they'll be looking at again on November 5th. They did hear from the 4 people that were nominated tonight before council committee, so they could answer some questions. There'll be more questions to be brought about. By the way, on Mr. Crumbo tonight, there were questions asked about him in committee, particularly about his work in the past for the city on a pro bono basis concerning health care. There were some concerns at the time he was working for the city. That's when Mayor Barry recommended that General Hospital be made into an outpatient clinic and be closed as a general hospital. He now said he'd take a fresh look at that if it came before him again as an issue while he was finance director. There were questions during the committee. There was no debate at all on the council floor, and his nomination, his confirmation to be finance director was approved without debate and without any opposition. That's usually the case. There's never been a finance director nomination that's been rejected by the council. The most serious debate tonight in the council was a vote of 25-13 on a resolution that would ask the Metro Legal Department to resolve the lawsuit involving the Waffle House shooting victim. There was a previous resolution on this. It was offered by Councilmember Verscher to settle this for an exact amount. Council members did not feel comfortable doing that. They did feel comfortable passing this, although some council members were still not sure this wasn't setting a precedent they didn't want to set. There was an effort to try to get the family to speak to the council tonight. The council needed a 2/3 vote to get that. Fell about 2 votes short of being able to get that done. Other action that the council took on second reading bills, they increased the parking tickets that you might get downtown. This will start December 1st if the bill passes again on third reading on November 5th. It would change that from an $11 fine to a $25 fine. This came up during the effort to privatize the parking system back under the Briley administration. This were the numbers they used. This is what appears going to be happening. There was a couple of amendments offered, but at this point, it looks like it's headed towards pretty easy approval. It passed tonight with a voice vote, and it was absolutely unanimous. The council also briefly considered a bill tonight and passed again without any opposition to change the prorated values of some of the projects that are being done so it would better qualify. Some people better qualify for blighted properties to be taken care of and renovated. Right now, the current system didn't seem to work very well. Councilman Scobey Sledge also has a bill that would ban aerial advertising. He thinks that in a lot of cases they're quite noisy and they pollute and go out in areas outside the downtown area. There was quite a bit of discussion about that. The bill was deferred for some further study, including by the airport authority, to see kind of how that needs to be handled going forward. That will be coming back up again on November 5th. That's when the council will meet again. We'll be here to provide live coverage. Until then, I'm Pat Nolan, and good night from the council chambers.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.